naiintindihan namin ang iyong paglalakbay. Na minsan, kailangan lumayo upang makamit ang tagumpay. With ways to save more, when you send more, World Remit is here for you, so you can be there for them.
Oy, ayan. Magandang hapon ho sa inyong lahat. Welcome ho sa ating program. Ito po ang Embassy Natin, Kaibigan Mo. Ako po si SONNY LARAGAN and we're broadcasting live ho. No, broadcasting live na nabubulol, nauutal ho tayo. Excited ho tayo ngayon dahil alamin natin kung paano nga ba no kayong mga Pinoy, mga kababayan natin, no, na mga Briton na halimbawa o kaya yung mga kaibigan natin na mga Briton, siguro kung paano makapag-invest, makatulong sa Pilipinas. Pag-uusapan ho natin yan. So good afternoon. Saan mang bahagi ho kayo ng United Kingdom, saan mang bahagi ho kayo ng Europa, saan mang bahagi ho kayo ng mundo na nanonood ho sa amin, tuloy ho kayo, kabayan. Ako po si SONNY LARAGAN, dito po sa Embassy Natin, Kaibigan Mo. At syempre, pakikilala ko yung ating Repa Pips, Dabar Cards, Chokaran, lahat na, no? Napakagandang lalaki, makisig. At siya magpapakilala doon sa ating very special guest for today. Mga kaibigan, broadcasting din ho live mula sa United Kingdom ang ating kaibigan, barkada, walang iba, the one and only, PEPS Villanueva. PEPS, good afternoon.
Afternoon naman, Sonny. Nasaan ako?
Ayan.
Iyon.
Oo nga, nasaan ka nga? Oo nga, ikaw na nagsasalita.
Alright,
no?
so it's good to see you again. No? Medyo isang linggo na. For the past months, nakikita tayo dito na lang sa programa.
Oo nga, oo.
Do you miss me? I miss you?
Yes, I miss you so much. In fact, I cry sometimes. Nice to see you, Peps, ha? Oy, teka muna, pasalamatan natin. Hindi ko napasalamatan ang World Remit. Maraming salamat to. Thank you very much. Without our sponsor, World Remit, hindi ko tayo makaka-ikot ng buong Europa, no? Upang makilala yung ating mga ambassadors at yung mga iba pang mga attached agencies, no? Kaya last week, ang kasama natin from the Philippine Department of Tourism, Northern and Southern Europe and United Kingdom na director. Director pala si Jerry, no? Director, ano ba?
Yeah.
Oh. So,
nakakatuwa naman, no? And then before that, we did Polo OWA, no? Department of Labor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Ngayon, makukumpleto na natin yung pangatlong government office in the Philippines na represented dito sa UK, makakapanayam natin yung kanilang commercial counselor, ano? At mamaya-maya ipapakilala natin, ano? At bagong lahat, nais ko lang batiin ang Batangas Association UK for holding a very successful 28th anniversary dinner and dance last Saturday at the Marriott Canary Wharf, no? It was well attended. Thank you, Ambassador and Mrs. Lagdameo, and pati yung daughter nila si Mayen, ano? From the USA came and joined us sa party, pati si Joel, no? Si Bo, si Conjen Arlene, si Consul Stacy, ano? At lahat sila nagdatingan. Maraming salamat sa Philippine Embassy for the support doon sa Batangas Association UK dinner and dance last Saturday, no?
Yes.
At siyempre, October na naman, ano? Nais ko rin batiin ng happy birthday, no? Maligayang kaarawan yung aking minamahal, yung aking asawa, no? Si Julie. Happy birthday, darling.
Kailan yan, Peps?
Today.
Today mismo. Oy.
Oo, today mismo.
Talking
no?
of birthdays, Peps, birthday nung ating very good friend na si Neng Labayan, a.k.a. no? Maria Ellis, a.k.a. Tinawagan ka ba niya dahil pina-follow up nga, di ba, yung napag-usapan natin kay Ambassador na i-coordinate
ano natin, no? Ipapaschedule natin, no? So, hopefully, we'll have it soon.
Okay.
At
yes.
And hopefully ngayon bago siya umalis, no?
Kailan ba alis niya? Most probably, kailan ba ang alis ni Ambassador?
Medyo magtatagal pa, no? Mga Disyembre
okay,
pa.
okay.
So bago
Abot
siya
pa.
umalis, no?
Ayan.
Yeah,
oo.
so
Okay.
ayusin
Tama-tama.
natin yan, no?
Okay, siguro pakilala natin yung ating very special guest.
Yes,
Peps, at
no? So-
excited din ako dahil marami akong gustong malaman sa ating, ano ba tawag doon? Ano ba? PTIC would be, ano ba yan? Philippine
Trade and Investment Center.
Investment
Huh?
Center.
London.
Alamin natin kung ilan sa Europe ang ganyang opisina, no? Kung yan
Yes.
ba'y nakakalat din or mapalad lang ang UK na siya ang namumukod tangi. Ayun. Tagalog na rin. Mahirap
Ang
yata.
nakakatuwa naman, the United Kingdom has always been represented by a councillor, ano?
Mm.
At matagal na. At
Okay. Yeah.
nakakatuwa naman at dahil
Sige.
yan ang ano eh. That's the commercial section ng Embassy of the Philippines.
Ano nga ba
no?
ang commercial section? Ano nga ba yan? No? Aalamin natin. So,
Yes,
pakilala mo,
aalamin
Peps.
natin lahat yan.
Oh,
no?
yan. Sige.
At commercial councillor, ano?
Oh, ayun nga.
Ang
Oh.
kanyang ang
Sige.
PTIC po under din yan sa Department of Trade and Industries, no? At before she came to London, nagkaroon din siya ng experience as a commercial councillor sa Bangkok, Sydney, New York, ano? And in between postings, alam mo ba, Sunny, she held various positions sa DTI, ano? Coordinator for International Trade Group, Technical Assistant to the DTI Secretary, and Senior Undersecretary, no? Naging Special Assistant to the Chair din siya ng Securities and Exchange Commission. And just prior to coming to London, she was the Executive Director of the Committee in ASEAN Economic Community and Assistant Secretary and Coordinating Officer of the Department of Trade and Industries Foreign Trade Service Corps, no? Tsaka hindi mo alam, Sunny, cum laude sa UP,
Wow.
Business Administration, no?
Oh.
Wow, no? And she finished her MBA in International Business and Export Management at the City University Business School in London
Dito.
under a British Chevening Scholarship. Scholar, no?
Yes.
ng,
galing.
Oo, ng Chevening. So,
Oo.
pakilala natin, walang
Sige.
iba kundi yung ating kaibigan, Commercial Councillor Michelle Fatima S. Sanchez. Councillor Fatima, good afternoon po.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Councillor. Yes.
Hi, good afternoon, Peps and then Sonny. Please call me Michelle.
Oh,
Huwag
yeah.
na masyadong buo yung pangalan.
Pero Fatima, saan galing yan? Sino nagbigay ng Fatima sa'yo?
Kasi di ba pag yung mga lola natin, gusto
Mhm.
may pangalan sa kalendaryo. So may kay Santo or what, di ba? And nung tinignan niya yung kalendaryo, the closest is the feast of Our Lady of Fatima. So yun yung ginawang second name.
So hindi yung mga lola na nag-away, teka muna, pangalan ko kailangan nandiyan dyan. So it came from the Fatima
hindi
sa
naman. I think they
kalendaryo.
wanted to be there.
So
Oo.
parang
From the
modern.
calendar.
Hinanap sa
Michelle,
kalendaryo.
Michelle Fatima, parang modern, no? Michelle and Fatima.
Para daw. My name is actually a combination of the different influences in the Philippines, di ba? May Spanish, may Malay, may American.
Wow.
Andun ang lahat.
Oo. Ano middle name mo, Michelle?
Santos.
Santos, di ba? Uy, Santos. Peps, Santos.
Pareho
Ano
kami
siguro
ng
to?
middle name.
Oo,
ganun
Santos,
ba?
Sanchez. Oo. Mother ni Peps is Santos eh. No? Okay. All right. So, simulan natin. Excited na kami. Kikilalanin ka namin, Michelle, no? Dahil parang ano ba yung commercial counselor niyan? Teka muna. Ano ba ang commercial counselor? Ano ba yan? Ano ba ginagawa mo?
Okay. So yung work namin, so ang description ng office namin, we're the representative office of PTI. So para kami yung Department of Trade and Industry dito sa London. And then at the same time, our office is also part of the Philippine Embassy, and we're the commercial section. So we're the ones who deal with business. So yung usual na kausap namin are businessmen here in the UK, whether they're buyers of Philippine products or investors. So yun yung role namin at being part of the embassy family.
So how do you do it? Do you do it through an advertisement in a newspaper? Do you join mga fairs? I don't know, no? How do you seek them out? Are they the ones seeking you out? Are you the ones going out and having this effort of trying to, get hold of prospective buyers of Philippine products or businessmen? I don't know, to invest ba? Ganun ba? When you say buyers, these are investors?
The buyers are those who import products from the Philippines. So yun yung mga, those who bring, like for example, yung mga Filipino food products that are here in the UK. So may mga buyers who import that from the Philippines and distribute it to the rest of the UK or even outside of the UK, for instance. So when we're lucky, they seek us out. So if they have very specific products in mind, for instance, then they contact our office. And what we do is to try to find them exporters, yung mga pwedeng mag-supply ng mga products nila. Of course, we have to find out anong specs nila, yung ganon. And then we try to match them sa mga exporters sa Pilipinas. The same with investors. May mga iba who contact our office to say na we're considering the Philippines as a location, so can you give us more information? And then we provide a briefing. And what we do is to handhold them through the process. That's the easy part of what we do. But it's not always that they seek us out, diba? I think more and more we find ourselves, kami dapat yung lumalapit. Kami dapat yung pumupunta sa mga buyers, sa mga investors to try to present the Philippines. Kasi kung hindi top of mind yung Pilipinas, we have to sort of, bring them, bring the Philippines to their radar screen, bring the Philippines to their attention. And we do this, right now during the pandemic, may mga webinars, diba? We invite them, we try to get meetings, mga cold calls, and get on if they will allow us to present the Philippines. Advertisements would be nice, but that's a high budget activity, so we haven't really done much of it.
Okay. Nabanggit ni PEPS kanina na kung saan-saan ka na napunta, Amerika, mga kung ano, Singapore. Babalik tayo ngayon sa iyo, kikilalanin ka namin. Yung mga ambassadors ngayon, Congens, at marami pang iba na naming nakapanayam. Minsan na, kamukha ni Conjen Bernie Fernandez ng Milan, Italy, nakita na sa dyaryo, malaki, very prominent, parang to travel the world, parang ganon, see the world or something like that. Ikaw, why did you graduated, you finished a, business administration degree, no? At UP, UP Diliman yan, no?
Yeah.
And cum laude.
Yeah.
Well, perhaps big time, cum laude. Tapos may masteral pa dito sa MBA dito sa City University ba?
University Business School.
Yeah,
Business
it's what
School.
they is
Oo,
now.
yeah. Ano ba? Chivling ba? Chivling yata tamang pronunciation.
Yeah.
So, okay. Why did you get... Okay. What was the initial dream of Michelle? Kumuha siya ng business administration or management? May business ba kayo? Or you wanted to go into business, to manage a business? Paano, bakit yan ang pinag-aralan mo? Ano ba talaga original dream ni Michelle?
Okay. I think ang umpisa ng business, when I was younger, I was always good in math. So that was my strongest subject. So it was either an engineering subject or to get into business. And I think yung sort of background mo sa UP, diba? Parang you're there, you become a little more conscious of national issues, yung ganon. And I think that was where it was ingrained na parang I want to get into something that will raise the flag of the Philippines. So it started with that. Out of college, I joined DTI for a year, but then moved to the private sector. And even in the private sector, I found myself doing basically development work and in the area of international trade. So it was kind of a good, it was a good mix for me because I felt that I was doing something that was actually contributing to the country, as corny as that sounds. But that was really my motivation. So even when I did my master's degree, it was in international business and export management.
Teka muna. Parang sinasabi mo, pumasok ang DTI, lumabas ka, you work sa private sector, so bumalik ka.
Yes. Yes, bumalik ako sa DTI after. So it was after
How
my
long? How
MBA.
long was it na nag-private sector ka before eventually
I think it was about
going back
7
to
years.
DTI? Ilan years?
Yeah, so private sector about 7 years, and then I did my masters, and then after the masters, then I joined DTI again. This time in the foreign trade service store.
Okay, so after the masters, you joined masters ng Chivning.
Yes.
Itong
Yeah.
MBA mo. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So sabi ni Peps, you were going into different places, mga Singapore, marami kang pati US yata narinig ko eh.
Bangkok, Sydney, and New York.
New York. Okay. So, ang mga ordinary PEPs, ano ba? Mga ambassadors, halimbawa, 6 years ang mga tour of duty. Si Jerry, hindi ko alam kung ilan ang years, kung 4 years o 6 years, no? Ikaw, nakaikot ka na Sydney, US, at saka nandito ka. Ilan ang years ang inyong assignment, tour of duty? Ng isang counselor?
Standard, yeah. Ang standard is about 6 years also. But, in our case, meron kaming rule na not less than 2 years, not more than 6 years. But it hasn't always happened that way. Kasi kung minsan, there's such a thing as yung exigencies of the service, di ba? So, kung kailangan ka magstay sa post, and then they extend you. So, when I was in Bangkok, it was supposed to be for 4 years. I ended up staying 5. And then in Sydney, it was also supposed to be 4 years. I ended up staying, supposedly 6. But on my 5th year, they asked me to move to New York. So it was a continuation. And then because I was, sort of beyond the 6 years, diba? I ended up staying in New York for 3.5 years. And the next was here in the UK na.
Okay.
Tagal
Kayo
din
ba,
pala,
do
no?
you go back home to the Philippines? Kasi di ba, PEPS, pagkatapos nilang ma-station dito,
Yeah.
uuwi. So, doon ka muna sa home office. Ganyan, bago i-deploy ka, no? Ikaw, so you mean to say, parang tatalon-talon ka from, let's say, from Sydney to New York ba? And then dito sa UK? Wala ka ng gap in between? You don't have to go back home to the Philippines? Nagpahinog ka muna ng 1 or 2 years and then saka ka i-deploy? Walang ganon?
Hindi, may gap naman.
Meron.
Hindi naman ako ganun kaswerte. Yung after Bangkok, I went back to the Philippines. And then I stayed in the Philippines for, I think, more than a year or almost 2 years. Kasi depende sa assignment mo, diba? So, na-assign ako sa undersecretary and then later sa secretary. So, medyo tumagal. But then yung Sydney and New York is what we call a cross-posting. So, you move from one post to another without going back to Manila first. So yung Sydney to New York lang yun. And then after New York, I went back to Manila and then served for another 1.5 years before I was assigned here in London.
Kailan ka na-assign dito? Because you said it's never less than 2 years, parang not less than 2 years, not more than 6 years. So na-reset ba yan ngayon? So when now that you're in the UK, by the way, when did you come over? And then ilang yan? 6 years ba yan? Or 5 years?
So I started here December 2016. So it's supposed to be a 6-year posting, diba? So pauwi na ako dapat next year. But I just a month ago got an extension. So they want me to stay for another 2 years more here. So
2 years?
A little over 3
Another
years.
2 years?
Yeah. So it's,
Wow.
so it's a 2-year extension.
Ano yan? Parang namarinig mo? Were you happy? O parang, teka mo, sawa na ako sa London?
Of course.
Oh, or you, wow, yes. Parang gano'n. Dahil another 2 years, di ba?
It's always kasi diba, parang the longer you stay in a post, you get to know about it more. So nag-iiba yung diskarte mo eh. You actually do a better job. But there's also such a thing as staying too long in a country na you forget about the Philippines already. So to me, okay na yun. Parang after 8 years, I think that should be it. I don't think I should be staying longer than that.
Okay, we're trying to get to know our public officials. Kaya parang public servants natin, no? Okay, andito ka for 6 years. You mean to say you get to long for the Philippines? Hindi ba kayo allowed, let's say, don't you have a leave na, kunyari may leave ka na 1 month or 2 weeks na say gusto na mismo Pilipinas, gusto mo tumakbo ka sa naglit? Is it not possible when you say 6 years ka dyan, you have to be there, you don't have to leave that post and come back to the Philippines even for a brief period? Kailangan tuloy-tuloy ka ba rin?
No, hindi naman. So we normally have, on an official basis, may mga planning conferences kami. Of course, na-stop because of the pandemic, so hindi kami nakauwi, di ba? But at least on a yearly basis, we're asked to come back to Manila, we do a planning conference. So it's sort of a re-educating also of what the developments are. And then even during the year, may mga official travels din. So like for example, if we have projects in the Philippines or we're accompanying a delegation, di ba, we can go. And then on a personal level, of course, I also like going on vacation in the Philippines. So we do have those. We're allowed to do that.
Okay. Pandemic time, what have you done? Okay, pre-pandemic, we just want to find out what you actually do. So sabi mo, yung parang introducing the Philippines, yung mga sa products and buyers. what would come to my mind would be Manning Impex, kasi sabi mo mga products, Philippine products, no?
Yeah.
So yan, coordinated ka ba sa mga ganyan, yung mga Manning Impex halimbawa?
Yeah.
Are you in coordination with them? Because I remember when ano yung friend natin, Peps, si Umali?
Si Andre.
No,
Andre
Christine ba?
Chong?
Umali?
Michael?
Hindi, si Umali. Si Umali. Na nasa
Ah,
Russia,
si-
sabi mo?
Si Kichi.
Si Kichi Umali. Siya yung kasi nung pinasok ng Manning Impex yung kanilang products sa ASDA, nagkaroon ng parang, I don't know, ribbon cutting or whatever. Andun kami, siya nag-aya, siya nag-i-invite. So, yung mga products na ganun, talagang they have to coordinate with you o ikaw na lumalapit sa kanila? Because like, for example,
Well, yung
Go.
Manning Impex is a regular regular importer. So of course we maintain a relationship with them, and then we try to see where else we can help. And then on a regular basis, kasi may mga trade fairs tayo sa Pilipinas. So like for the food sector, it's called IFEX, the International Food Exhibition. So we make sure, buyers like Manning Impex, yung mga ASCO Foods and all, we make sure to invite them for them to come to the Philippines, kasi we also want them to keep expanding their range, diba? May mga regular products silang in-import. But if there are new products like coming in, we make sure they're aware of this so they can also consider them.
aside from the food products, Michelle, ano pa ang kinukuha sa Pilipinas?
Okay. Yung interesting na in-export natin na most people probably don't know, mga bicycles and even parts of
Bicycles?
Yes. So
Bisikleta sa Pilipinas?
So there's manufacturing being done in the Philippines. Kung minsan the parts of bicycles are exported here in the UK, and then nasasali yan dun sa mga finished bicycles that the UK sells in the local market or exports to Europe. So yung Philippines is actually one of the top suppliers for that. Yung in terms of food, yung canned tuna, we are actually the biggest supplier among ASEAN to the UK. So
Canned tuna?
makikita
Canned
nyo,
tuna?
Yeah.
Oh, canned tuna.
Yung
Really?
binibili nyo sa Sainsbury's, sa Tesco, yung gano'n, halos yan, madami dyan galing sa Pilipinas. Of course,
Galing
hindi
na Jensan?
brand ng Philippines. Jensan or all over. So, kuminsan hindi lang brand ng Pilipinas, di ba? So, desiccated coconut, again, the Philippines is a big supplier. Canned pineapple, yun din. Marami tayong canned pineapple that's in the market. So, these are more of the big ticket items.
So you mean to say, parang naka-white label na yung kunyari sa Sainsbury's na nabibili mo? Sainsbury's yan, pero actually, Pilipinas galing yun?
Yes.
Wow,
That's true.
that's interesting to know. Hindi natin alam,
Yung
nabibili
mga
ako ng
iba,
marami nun.
they put it in the label, no? Ako, when I see that it's made in the Philippines, automatic yan, I will buy it, no? If I'm looking for yung pineapple chunks, if it's Del Monte, Philippines, sigurado yun ang pipiliin ko, kahit mas mahal ng konti.
Really? Teka muna.
And then yung
Totoo ba
yung
talaga
banana
yan?
chips. No?
Pero totoo ba yan?
Banana chips,
Hindi, Michelle, Peps,
puro
natutuwa
ano
ko
yan,
dahil...
made in the Philippines, yung Holland and Barrett, no?
Oo.
If you check, product of the Philippines, nakalagay, nakaka-proud, hindi ba? Product of the Philippines.
Meron akong inattendingan hindi ko alam kung niyaya ako ni Kichi. There was this, hindi ko alam, Eastern European na base yata sa UK, na merong mga pinuproduktong mga oil-based, some coconut something, na sinusupply niya sa Holland and Barrett. Nakilala mo ba yun, Michelle?
It's probably, that's Tiana Organic.
Ayun, Tiana, tama ka. Tiana.
Yeah.
Buhay pa ba?
She's based here.
Okay pa? Is she still
Yes.
active pa yung buhay pa ba yung
she continually expands her yung sourcing niya. So isa pa yan na kasi mga organic products yan So she's doing desiccated coconut, ngayon may coconut sugar na siya. So kung mayroong mga new products that are being done out of coconut and then organic, then we also make sure that she's aware of them. She's also one of the regular visitors to trade fairs.
Pwede mo kami i-hook up sa kanya. We could probably do a bit of a write-up for her on the paper.
Sure.
Kasi siyempre, basta may relation sa Pilipinas, no? Although she's, anong lahi niyan? Polish ba? O ano ba lahi niya?
I'm not quite sure.
Hindi mo tinanong.
Yeah.
Ano siya ba sa Eastern European? I'm sure, I'm absolutely sure Eastern European yan, di ba? Tama? Kasi may accent yan, medyo strong accent yan okay, si Tiana, tama, Tiana.
Yeah, we'd be happy to, we'd be happy to.
Okay.
look her
O
up.
sige. Well, ngayon ko lang nalaman, Peps, Teka muna, yung sinasabi mo, saan ba nakikita yung mga tuna natin? Sainsbury's, ganyan? Saan pa ba? Tesco, Asda,
Sainsbury's
ganyan?
meron, tingnan niyo yung Princess brand, kuminsan may Philippines yan. So, kuminsan nilalagay nila, it's a non-EU product. Parang dati ganun yung
Non-EU.
label. But then there
Oh.
are some na naka-indicate talaga, made in the Philippines. When I buy Vita Coco, for instance, yung coconut water,
Oo.
kuminsan titingnan ko muna, kasi Vita Coco sources from the Philippines and other countries as well.
Okay.
So kung makikita kong
Dahil iba, South American eh.
Yeah, oo.
So, pwede
But
pala
if you
tayo
check,
magkaroon ng
if it's product of the Philippines,
Buy Philippine
Okay,
products
ah.
pala. Pwede pala tayo magkaroon ng campaign na Buy Philippine products. We get this, have this
Look for the
awareness to our
label.
kababayans na meron pala mga produktong galing sa atin, di ba? Punta ka na Amerika, punta ka na yung mga outlets, di ba? Minsan mga sapatos, made in Vietnam, made in the Philippines, made gano'n, no? But it's also nice to know, no? Na maski paano, although alam kong ang may-ari, yung, di ba, yung kung sino mang tatak kung Nike man yun or whatever, di ba? Pero at least Pilipinas ang gawa, no? But going back to the bicycles.
if you buy Clark shoes, Sonny, Clark,
Yes.
no?
Oo.
Check kung saan gawa because there are some na made in the Philippines.
Oh, wow.
Yung Clark,
Galing.
yeah.
Oh, that's good. Well, it
Kaya
makes you
ako,
proud, no?
pagka for my use or family use here in the UK, I buy product of the Philippines. Pero kung pasalubong sa Pilipinas,
Oh, syempre.
dahil pagka pinasalubong mo sa Philippines,
Oo.
made in the Philippines,
Oo.
aalipostahin ka pa eh.
Tama,
Uy,
oo.
dito
Umikot pa
mo
eh,
lang
no?
pala binili yan.
Oo, pero all the products, most of the products galing, Vietnam, Philippines, punta ka sa Amerika,
Yeah.
punta ka rito, di ba? Ganon talaga eh.
Puma,
Mas
ang Puma,
mura.
merong made in the Philippines. No?
Okay. Iyan ba ngayon, halimbawa, made in the Philippines, ginawa sa Pilipinas, dinala rito. Kunyari, sapatos, Clark, so nasa Pilipinas ginawa. Yung bisikleta na sinasabi mo, hindi kaya yung ginawa din ng gano'n isang international company housed in one of our EPSAs, yung mga export processing zones, na doon ginawa na maaring Australian company yan or Korean company? Philippine company ba yung sa bicycle parts?
Well, you're right, exactly. So these are what we call yung mga investment-driven exports. So yung mga yan, most of them are like Taiwanese companies, for instance, and then they set up a manufacturing operation in the Philippines to take advantage of our, yung the skills of our workforce, yung ganon, and then the fact that we have very business-friendly conditions, di ba? The other advantage of the Philippines, pumapasok ito sa UK under the what we call the GSP system, yung Generalized System of Preferences, which means kung galing Pilipinas yan, pumapasok na zero yung tariff, which is an advantage compared, of course, kung yung usual na rate.
Ang tanong ko, Michelle, okay, I'm trying to think of kunyari, biglang iniisipan mga Briton na Pinoy dito to invest, no? Okay, so parang you buy products from the Philippines, meron bang advantage yan? You're importing it here? Meron bang somewhere along the way may tax deductions? I don't know, no?
Yeah.
Usual din ba? Parang kanyari gusto mo kumuha ng produkto sa Pilipinas, dalhin dito. Meron ba from the British side naman, nandito na? Meron bang may mga discount ba or regular shipping cost ba? How is that?
Well, the advantage is really in the GSP na. So yung
Ano yung GSP nga pala? Ano ibig sabihin ng GSP?
It's called the Generalized System of Preferences. So yung
Generalized System of
Preferences.
Preferences. Okay.
Yeah. So it's a non-reciprocal tariff concession that's given to developing countries. So before Brexit, we were operating under the EU GSP Plus. So it was an EU-wide program, and the UK was part of it. And then after Brexit, the UK carried on the program and then set up its own system, di ba? So the Philippines is one of the beneficiary countries as a developing country. So meron tayong siguro about 50% of our Philippine products enter the UK market at zero tariff because of this privilege. So it's a big advantage for us. Yung kantuna natin, yung mga the big ticket items I told you about, yung mga pineapple, di ba? The reason why they're growing is because there is this advantage. So yung bicycles are another one, di ba? Pwedeng pumasok siguro kung galing
Pilipinas.
ibang bansa, baka may 10% na tariff,
Oo,
di ba?
dahil sa Pilipinas.
Pero kung galing Pilipinas, zero yan.
Wow.
So, magmumura yung presyo because
So in a way, actually, nakikinabang tayo inviting these investors back home in the Philippines sa mga export processing zones for job creation, job
Yes.
generation.
Yes.
Yun lang, no?
Yes.
Pero syempre, meron pang benefit pa yung investor doon ng mga tax holidays and credits siguro, no? So, would you say, now that we're out of the Brexit, inabot mo, di ba? Mas maganda ngayon ang conditions?
They're about the same. You know, frankly, yung kasing Brexit naman, ang effect niya is more of trade between the UK and the rest of EU, di ba? But as far as trade with third countries, parang walang masyadong effect. Yung ano lang siguro, yung binantayan natin talaga, yung transition. Kasi magbabago yung rules. Dati we were dealing under, we were exporting our products under EU rules. And now we have to know, ano ba yung UK rules, di ba? May konting effect din kahit papano. Kasi like, we were talking about yung mga store brands that are actually made in the Philippines. So dati, for instance, I don't know if you're familiar with a French brand, yung Picard. So they do mga frozen products ito.
Okay.
So yung Picard, nag-import from France yung frozen Philippine mangoes. Di ba yung mangga natin? Yun yung pinakamasarap talaga. Para walang katapat yung mangga natin So ang Picard, nag-import yan ng frozen mangoes from the Philippines going to France, and then it's re-exported to the rest of Europe. After Brexit, hindi na natin nakita yung Picard products.
Picard.
Because of yung certain terms, diba, na so may mga ganong effects na kahit paano yung Brexit.
Okay. Well, marami tayong palang matututunan, no? Siguro, andyan ka ba sa opisina mo? Minsan dalawin ka naman ni PEPS, no? Let's have coffee, no? Magkapaguntahan at, all of these opportunities na pwede natin gawin para sa ating mga kababayan. At dito sa mga British na who would like to probably buy and, products and invest.
Inabot kasi, Sunny, no? Actually, I think it's only Michelle na hindi pa natin nadalaw dyan sa opisina.
Oo nga, yes.
Panahon pa ni Perry Sales nung araw. Do you know Perry?
Oh, si Perry Sales ang commercial counselor nung nag-aaral ako dito. Nung
Yes.
doing my MBA.
Okay,
So he was the
okay.
commercial
Si Perry,
counselor
di
there.
ba?
Kaya binibisita ko siya noon.
Okay.
No, yeah.
Studies,
Tagal na
ilang
nun,
years ang studies mo? Ang MBA mo, 2 years?
It was, I think, 16 months. It was less than 2 years.
Less than 2 years. And then yung posting mo rito, say 6 years plus another 2 years, 8 years. Ay ba, para ka ng dekada, ka na rito? Can we say that, no? Isang dekada yung stay dito sa, sa United Kingdom.
Pero wala pa rin akong British accent.
Gano'n ba? Kailangan pa ba natin? Di ba, mas bilib yata sila sa atin pagka American accent tayo, mas pinagkakausap pa tayo, no? Mas special ang treatment sa atin. Okay, Peps, we're gonna have some greetings muna and then bago tayo mag-break and then we continue on with our mga kababayan na magtatanong, no? Yung mga nais magtanong sa ating very special guest. So, direct, sige,
maraming
yung mga pabati rito, a few of those pabati before we go into our break, no? At we have a very wonderful guest ho ngayon, cum laude ito, at saka master, no? MBA dito sa City Business School, no? Dito sa United Kingdom.
Yeah.
At sa gusto siguro, mahal na mahal siya ng DTI, sabi, diyan ka na for 2 years pa. O, imagine mo yan. O, diba? So, mapaparami kapag kakapin natin dito kay Michelle, no? 2 years. Okay. Direct, ayan, pakibasa, Peps. Uy, nawala.
Magandang early morning po. No? O, nawala.
Hindi, andyan na. Ito na.
Yeah, magandang
Ayan.
early morning po sa gagwapuhang host natin, Kuya Sunny, Kuya Peps, direct pa on the technical side, at sa ating piling panauhin. Salamat sa World Remit, no?
Ayan.
Salamat din, Oliver, no? From
Oliver,
from
ka.
Washington State,
From Washington
sa
State.
America, no?
Umaga
Sa
pa
US.
ron. Oo.
Kaya laging gising yan. Good PM po, Marina Espiritu. Ito, tiga London ito. No?
Ayan, sinabi niya. Tama,
Yeah,
kasasabi
watching
mo,
here
taga
in London.
Mabuhay.
At batiin din natin yung mga na nanonood sila like sina Gary Sartes.
Ito,
Yes,
basahin
no?
mo. Andiyan si Gary Sarte. Ayan, basahin mo na. Peps.
Yeah, hello, Sunny and Peps, watching from East Acton. Yeah.
While here. Wise Acton. Very good. Si Lito. Yung
East Acton pala siya,
founder.
Hi,
Founder ng,
Peps and Sunny, watching while here at work.
Caviteños UK, no?
Hey break, si Lito
Uy,
Fabi.
Lito, mabuhay.
Caviteños
Mabuhay, Lito.
UK. No? Hello,
Ayan.
Peps and Sunny, watching from Calgary. Uy,
Ba, Canada.
si Kaloy pala, nasa Calgary, no? Tiga Liverpool yan, ano? Si
So,
Kaloy,
Washington
gigante.
Washington State, tapos Calgary. Ayan, no?
Calgary.
Halo-halo tayo,
But
no?
si
Oo.
Kuya Kaloy, Kaloy Gigante is from Liverpool, no? Si Emmeline
Okay.
Rafael, good afternoon, Sunny and Peps and your guest. Si
Abu Dhabi
Emmeline
na.
naman, tiga
Sige.
London yan, Wimbledon,
Abu Dhabi
pero at the moment, nasa Abu Dhabi, no?
Ayan.
Yan,
Abu
watching
Dhabi.
from Abu Dhabi now.
Mm-mm.
Watching from Canada, Toronto.
Okay.
Adele
ayaw
Dueñas,
patalo.
no?
Kailangan merong ano, no? Kailangan
Oo.
merong ano. Oo, meron tayong mga viewers all over the world, no?
At saka nakita
Yan
ko,
ba, Direk?
napansin ko, watching din si Ambassador Eddie De Vega ng Belgium, no?
Mabuhay. Ambassador, no?
Mabuhay
Eddie De
po,
Vega,
watching
no?
from West London, Chris Noble.
Chris
or
Noble.
Chris Noble.
Mabuhay. Noble kasi sabi ng mob. Nabulol tuloy ko, Noble. Chris, mabuhay. West London. Ayan, mga ano natin. No? First time natin nakita yung name ni Chris na pumasok dito.
Oo, ngayon ko lang na.
Very good.
And then, Batanggenyo, Ben Ortiz from Forest Hill, no?
Ayan, mabuhay.
London,
Mabuhay.
nanonood din, no?
Okay.
And
we're
then
gonna
sa
have-
West London, si Rolly Buendia, si Rizal. Rolly
Rolly
Buendia, si
Buendia.
Professor.
Oh,
Professor Rolly, no?
Di ba si Rolly is based in Wales?
No, he's based somewhere in malapit kina June Buena, no?
Okay. Akala ko based
Ano yan, professor
si
yan.
Professor, yes, professor. Okay.
Si
Ikaw ba,
Professor.
nagturo ka rin ba, Michelle?
No.
Hindi ka nagturo. Okay.
Yung mga ano lang, parang on the side na when we were in grade school and high school, teaching catechism to the community.
Pero si Ambassador Bautista ba, inabot mo sa DTI?
Yes. He was the one who hired me actually in the foreign trade
okay.
service corps. So siya yung
So before he
nag-interview
came
sa
here,
akin, final interview. Yes.
Who
Siya yung
hired
just before
you
he left
when you
DTI.
went back na? Hindi yung first time,
Yeah.
the second time. The second time.
The second time, yes.
Second time.
So he was the one who interviewed me and basically gave me the job for the foreign trade service corps.
Meron pang isa dyan, kaibigan namin nung time niya, si Boboy. Makapagal.
Buboy, makabagal. Okay. O sige,
Hindi
mag-break
mo
lang muna
nalapit si
tayo.
Boboy.
Huwag ho kayong alis, mga kaibigan. Saglit po lamang, babalikan natin yung ating, PEPS, ano yun? Marami kasi posisyon si Michelle eh.
Commercial Counsellor.
Counselor.
No? At the Philippine Trade and Investment Center, London.
Trade Director eh. Officer pala. Officer. Ayan. Ayan
Yeah,
o.
good
alam
evening
mo
din,
natin.
Ambassador Myla Makahilig and Joe Cruz from Friday Group.
Yes. Oy, Ambassador. Malapit na sa Vatican
Hi,
PEPS.
Ma'am.
Meron na tayong... kilala mo ba si, si Myla, Ambassador? Michelle?
Yeah, nag-abot
Yes,
sila.
oo.
She was
Oo.
here.
Yes, she was here. She was here,
We,
no?
we
Minister.
actually worked together also when she was assigned in New Zealand and I was in Sydney. So kino-cover ko rin yung New Zealand. I know mine from way back.
So kilala mo. Close kayo. Okay.
Double, pala sila, double indemnity.
She's gonna be the incoming ambassador sa Vatican, Vatican City. Kaya mabuhay. Congratulations sa Ambassador Myla Makahilig, no? Okay, we're gonna have a short break.
Pagbalik natin, no?
Pagbalik natin.
Question and answer.
May question and answer ho. Ito yung portion na binubukas natin sa ating mga kababayan, no? Ang pagkakataong magtanong ng mga nais nilang malaman, no? O paglilinaw sa ating mga special guests. Okay, we'll be having a short break. Huwag ko kayong alis. Saglit po lamang.
Sa World Remit, naiintindihan namin ang iyong paglalakbay. Na minsan, kailangan lumayo upang makamit ang tagumpay. With ways to save more, when you send more, World Remit is here for you, so you can be there for them.
Okay, nako, exciting to, no? Nakakatuwa ho kasi, no? PTIC, yung malaman natin kung paano investments, paano pumapasok dito. Ngayon ko lang nalaman, marami ko nalaman, no? about tuna, about ito si Peps may sinasabi sa atin tungkol sa mga sapatos sa Clarks, no? So Peps, good afternoon once again. Welcome mo sa inyo lahat dito sa ating program, no? Ayan, good afternoon once again.
Good afternoon pa rin po sa inyong lahat ng nanonood ngayon dito po sa Filipino TV Europe, sa Facebook at sa YouTube, no? Embassy natin, kaibigan mo.
Oy, thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying
Siyempre,
that.
salamat sa World Remit.
Tsaka, thank you for saying yung YouTube kasi pagka pinapost ko ngayon, simulcast on Facebook and YouTube. Ayan, nakaspecify na yan.
Yes.
Kaya manood na ho kayo sa YouTube kung gusto niyo napakalinaw na quality ho ng video.
High def.
High def. High def. Super high def tayo. Oo. Okay, Peps. Sige, tawagan mo uli ang ating special guest.
Well, ibalik natin yung ating bisitang pandangal ngayong hapon. Our special guest on the show, none other than our commercial counselor, Michelle Fatima Santos Sanchez.
Yes. Specify pa ba yung Santos dahil Santos ka sa nanay mo eh. Di ba?
Oo, Santos ako.
Para matuwa yung nanay ko dapat.
Oo, yes.
Saan ang Santos mo, Michelle?
Pampanga. Actually, both my parents are Kapampangan. Pero kung Kabalen, Kapampangan. Kumusta
Which part?
kayo?
Which part of Pampanga?
So, my dad is from Mabalacat. My mom is from Porac. And then, but we were born in Angeles.
Angeles.
Bakit doon sila nagkakilala? Doon sila nagkakilala sa Angeles?
Nagkakilala sila sa Angeles na. Oo.
Okay. Angeles. Mabalacat, di ba yan yung dalawa? Porac, yun ang mga tinamaan ng lahar? Tama ba?
Yes. Unfortunately.
Ayan, nung araw. Okay. Kasi nung kino-cover ko yung mga yan.
Pero ano na ngayon, Porac is very different now kasi parang it's being developed well. So if you go there, may mga industrial estates, may mga bagong subdivisions. So it's been rebuilding very well.
Ayan, okay. So parang talagang full-blooded Kapampangan dahil
Yeah.
Teka mo lang, may
Both
Kapampangan,
sides.
wala, may agusang Kapampangan pa ba? Buhay pa ba yung grupo?
Aguman.
Aguman, Kapampangan?
Yes, nandiyan pa rin yata.
Nandiyan pa sila? Okay. Ayan. Kasi very active ngayon, Caviteños, kayo Peps, Batangas, di ba? Parang medyo naging quiet yata ang Aguman. Okay.
At saka naka-live stream din tayo, naka-share. Enfeed, no? Sa Enfeed.
Thank you very much. Enfeed, mabuhay.
Facebook, no?
Oo, mabuhay, no? At saka naka-share tayo sa lahat ng mga bansa, Filipino organizations dito sa buong Europa, no? So, thank you. Okay.
And as you said, pati Batangas Association UK, nandun din tayo, no? At
okay.
UK
Mabuhay, no?
UK Pinoys for Good Governance, nandun din tayo, no? Naka-live stream din tayo doon. So, marami tayong station.
Okay. Before we open our yung line natin sa communication pagtatanong kay Michelle, kay Counsellor. Pwede ko ba tawagin Counsellor? Counsellor
Michelle
ba pwede?
na lang.
Hindi, Michelle, pero Counsellor ka. Counselor.
Michelle na lang.
Commercial Counselor. Yeah, Michelle. Counselor, pwede rin abogado, no? Counsel. Okay.
Pero nung araw, I remember, trade attaché ang tawag.
Yung
civic ba? Trade attaché o attaché yung tawag?
Counselor din.
He was also appointed commercial attaché. Ano yan kasi it's a rank thing eh. So yung when you enter, like ako when I was in Bangkok, I was a commercial attaché. Kasi parang yun yung parang pag pumapasok ka sa embassy, di ba? Vice consul muna and then you become consul. So in our case, parang you start as commercial attaché and then when you achieve
and then you get promoted to counselor, no?
Ayun,
yes,
no. Tama.
Because I remember si Perry was counselor, ang tawag namin.
Yeah.
Ayun.
Counselor siya, no?
Ano susunod sa'yo?
Pero I remember si Vic was attaché.
Yes.
When he started, no?
Ano susunod na position mo, for example? Anong susunod?
That's it.
That's it na yun. Okay,
The
that's it.
foreign posting.
Foreign posting, that's it.
The foreign posting, di ba? But in the Philippines, you could go as high as secretary.
No naman, kasi political na yun di ba? But career-wise,
but you can. In theory, you can.
In theory, yes.
Yung mga undersecretary, siyempre, pwede kayo dyan, di ba? O political appointees pa rin yun?
Political din yan.
Okay. Alright. Okay. We're open na natin
Andiyan na
ang
yata
line.
yung ating ano,
Andyan na. Let's say hello to taga-saan ba to? Birmingham ba to o taga-saan?
Manchester.
Manchester
yan.
pala. Okay, let's say hello to Salvador, si Jun. Salvador Changson Jr. Jun, good
Junior.
afternoon.
Good afternoon, Sonny, PEPS, and Michelle.
Ayan, medyo mataas ang audio ni Jun. Direct, adjust lang na konti, no? Okay, Jun,
Okay, June.
what we do is we get to know yung mga kababayan natin who go on air, no? Kamukha ng pag umiikot kasi kami ni PEPS sa iba't ibang bahagi ng Europe, meron tayong mga kababayan nagtatanong doon sa mga ambassadors or mga consul generals na nag-guest natin. So, kinukumusta namin, ano jobs nila, ano ginagawa nila, how long have they been in those countries, no? Jun, kailan ka pa nandito and what do you do?
I arrived here in 2002, and I'm into a protection advice. I'm a self-employed. I do insurance, I do mortgage protection, income protection, and building and content. So more or less, I communicate with a lot of Filipinos working here in UK, whether they're nurses, self-employed, engineers, or whatever field they're into.
Yan bang field mo na yan, is it like something that we have a lot of Filipinos involved in or engaged in o kukunti lang?
In the company that I'm in, there are 15 of us now. This is 4 nations. Of course, we're still hiring people who are interested in, doing this business. Mas maganda sana kung mas marami because, how many Filipinos are here now in England, and there are more or less, there are a lot also arriving, mga bagong nurses. So we have to get in touch with them. Especially now na may pandemic, I think there is always a need for them to be protected.
But how did you get into it? When you arrived in the UK, immediately or instantly you were doing that, or were you doing something else? So how did you get into that?
No, pagdating ko dito, first, because wala naman ako national insurance, so you cannot go into any employment. So you have to ask or request somebody. Like for me, for instance, when I arrived, nagtrabaho muna ako sa hotel. Then, before that, I talked to the manager to give me an opportunity to work with them so that I can be provided with national insurance. So yun ang nangyari sa akin.
Okay, back in the Philippines, what were you doing prior to coming over? Were you into...
I was already in the insurance business. I was doing life protection already.
Okay. So, okay lang. So, parang continuation lang ng iyong career.
Continuation itong ginawa ko dito. Yeah.
Okay. June, we
That's
have
good. At least nasunod niya yung gusto niya, no?
we have our...
Definitely.
Linya.
PEPS, yun? Commercial Counselor and Trade Officer. Ito na ang pinakamataas na posisyon.
Commercial Counselor
Oo.
at
Dito,
the Philippine
si
Trade and
Yeah.
Investment Center, London.
Michelle Sanchez,
Wow.
kung narinig mo yung interview namin, wow, ang mga tuna pala at saka mga ganyan, no? Marami mga produkto galing sa Pilipinas, bisikleta parts galing sa Pilipinas. Sabi ni PEPS, sa Clark's, galing sa Pilipinas. So, I don't know.
Yes, narinig
Yeah,
ko nga
go
yung about sa bisikleta. Don't you know that before World War II, England was exporting parts of bicycles. Yan ang ina-export ng England noon. Now, at least baliktad na ngayon, it is the
Sila lang
Philippines now
importer.
are sending parts. Yeah.
Oh, good. Oh, that's good. Ano pa kaya mababago pa, no? Sa UK at saka... Ay, teka muna pala. Naku, sorry, nakalimutan ko pala. But pagkatapos ni June, pakita natin yan direct. Oo. Ito pala grupo ni... Sino to? Dabawayan niyo UK. Anong grupo to? June, ito ba grupo mo?
Yeah, part ako ng Davao New UK because taga Davao ako eh. These are the
Okay.
Alam mo ba kung
Davaoenos
sinong kaklase
in
niya,
UK.
Sunny?
Yes, Peps.
Alam mo ba kung sino yung kaeskwela niyan? Sino yung kaeskwela mo dating nandito naka-assign, June?
Yung ating ano?
Oh, si
consul.
Voltaire is my schoolmate ko noon sa high school.
Mm.
Actually, may kaklase rin ako sa law na who is working with DTI, si Doremdes.
DTI.
From the DTI Davao?
DTI Davao, yes. Attorney Duremdes.
Duremdes kasi yung pumapasok sa isip namin yung basketball player si Kenneth Duremdes ba? Duremdes, tama ba yun?
Hindi naman.
Same spelling
hindi
ba?
naman yun.
Duremdes?
The same spelling, but I don't know if they're related, no?
Okay, all right. Okay. So
Probably,
Davao.
sa kanila na lang yun.
Okay. All right, ano to? Ito pinapakita rito naka-Amerikana ka. May Amerikana kayo. Ano to?
That is my other group naman. Ito yung mga Freemasons of the Philippines. Andyan na
good.
sila, Conjen, andyan sila.
We would like to do a story dyan, Peps, dahil meron yatang isang ano ba tawag yan? Freemason na group. Halos Pilipino, miyembro. No?
Lahat.
Hindi ko alam kung yung kay Junior.
Marami yan.
Oo, marami yan. Oo. O,
Si
sino to?
Senen.
Sa
Si
England,
Conjen
madami
Senen.
rin
Ano?
dito eh.
Sino to?
Ito naman yun, remember Peps, Sunny, you made an interview with us with regards to the insurance. This is part of my
Yes.
group.
Good. Okay. Pero
Yan ba yun?
These are the protection
Romulo
advisors
Cafe to.
that are working with me.
Romulo Cafe, ginawa to. Tama?
Yes, nagkaroon kami ng meeting doon. Correct. You're right.
Sino ang nag-book, June?
Kung hindi ako nagkamali, parang si PEPS.
Okay. All right. O sige, June, go ahead. Ano ang question mo?
Yeah, may tanong lang ako, no? Since we are already in the import and export business, most of my clients also, there are other clients who wanted to invest in the Philippines because some wanted to retire. Hindi naman ito mga Filipinos, there are foreigners also or British who wants to retire in the Philippines. My first question is, how intense is the investment risk management in the Philippines? You know, they wanted to protect also the money that they've earned and bring it over to the Philippines. How protected are they when they invest in the Philippines?
I think in terms of yung protecting foreign investments, within UK investments in the Philippines, yung fundamental protection natin is the bilateral investment treaty. So there's one between the UK and the Philippines, di ba? So that actually provides for protection from both sides. So investments to the Philippines as well as Philippine investments to the UK. And then the Philippines is also a signatory to a lot of yung mga international conventions governing disputes, yung commercial disputes. So in terms of usually yung mga investors, diba, gusto nila pag nag-invest sila, they want to make sure that their investments are protected and that if a commercial dispute arises, there's a way for relief, whether it's mediation or whether it's court. So the Philippines is a signatory to all those international agreements that recognizes UNCITRAL, for instance, as a method, and then also yung mga ICSID, yung mga international courts for the settlement of disputes. So at least in terms of that, diba? Parang the Philippines is following best practices internationally. On an industry level, I think it depends sa industry kung gaano kataas yung risk. So like for instance, if it's the banking sector or the mining sector, diba? Parang mas mataas dapat yung risk management. The investors we deal with would be in the manufacturing sector or in IT BPO. The risk for those are actually lower. So yung diba, parang they're setting up the operations and all. So it's just basic commercial parang protecting your investments. I would say na hindi ganon ka-intense yung requirement for risk management. I think that the other factor also to consider, kasi when the investors are coming from a developed country, they see developing countries as more of a high risk, like may mga political uncertainties, di ba? So it's really up to the investor to be able to utilize the right, for example, insurance or whatever risk management tools. And it's good that in the Philippines we do have those products to protect investments as well. I'm not sure if I answered your question, but yeah, it's basically dependent on the industry, how intense is the risk management strategy with their companies.
Talaga insurance guy,
Yes,
Peps,
okay.
no? Mga risk management talaga eh. Kaya nga yung risk, yan ang kino-cover ng insurance eh. Have you got a quick second question o okay na yun? Okay na yun?
Okay na yun, sige.
Okay na? Okay.
I'm
Sige.
done, yeah.
June, fantastic.
Thank you, Michelle.
It's nice hearing from you na maganda at na nag-contribute ka. Maganda yung tanong mo. No? Very good. Thank you, June. You take care, ha? Ayan.
Okay,
Salamat,
thank
Jun.
you.
Salvador
I'll see you soon.
Chiangson
Bye-bye.
Jr. mula sa Manchester. Ayun, thank you very much. Okay. So,
Bye-bye. Thank you.
oo. Teka muna, risk management, ano, guaranteed ba yung pera? Kunyari, do people declare, did you ask them, how much are you going to be investing in the Philippines? Well, I'm going to be investing the equivalent of 5 million pesos. Ganun, halimbawa. Meron ba insurance yun? Hindi naman, di ba? May ano ba yan? Let's say, parang PTIC ba? Di ba, pag kunyari, magkano pera mo? Dineposito mo, 1 million, babalik lang siya, 100,000 pesos. Parang ganun yata, di ba? Sa Pilipinas, PTIC. Ganyan ba? When you say risk,
Well,
walang problema ba dapat?
I think it's a commercial decision on the part of the company, di ba? How to protect their investments. But as I said, kasi merong mga basic guarantees yung pag-invest sa Pilipinas. Like for example, may guarantee against expropriation, yung hindi basta kukunin ng gobyerno yung negosyo mo, di ba? May guarantee that you can repatriate your profits. So may mga basic guarantees na ganon to make sure that investors feel comfortable about putting their money in the Philippines, setting up operations in the Philippines. Yung mga additional layers of insurance, I think would depend on the nature of the industry. Depende kung gaano ka high risk yung industry, or kung yun nga, as I said, in the IT BPO industry, parang I guess it's just usual protection of assets that's required. And I think one thing also, yung mga bangko natin very conservative yan, di ba? So if you're when you're dealing with local banks, for instance, parang you also have a certain level of comfort.
Okay. Papakita natin PEPS yung sa DTI para may understanding sila. Ano ba itong DTI? DTI. Actually, parang kay Jerry, sabi niya, mini Department of Tourism sila, di ba? So si Michelle, mini DTI, nandi dito. Tama ba? Pwede ba? Is that an apt
Yes.
okay,
Yes.
description
With
or
the
way of
DTI
saying
in
it?
London, basically.
Okay. Alright. Ito, mga kaibigan, panoorin natin to. This is about a 2.5-minute video. Siguro patungkol sa ginagawa ng PTIC dito sa UK. Roll!
Kaya natin yan. Kaya natin yan. Kung nais umasenso, manap ng trabaho, o di kaya'y subukang magnegosyo. Lumikha ng produkto't sikaping lumago, inspirasyon mong pagkapiko. Katuwang ng gobyerno sa iyong tagumpay, iisa ang ating hangarin. Pag may abilidad at oportunidad, tiyak na ang lahat ay uunlad. Trabaho, negosyo, kabuhayan, kaya natin yan. Walang iwanan. Go lang ng go mga kaibigan. Trabaho, negosyo, kabuhayan, kaya natin yan. Sulong Pilipinas! Go, 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 kababayan! Kaya natin yan. Kaya natin yan. Kayaw magtipid sa iyong mga pangarap. Sige-sige sa pagsisikap. Asenso'y sigurado sa hinaharap. Manalig lang palagi sa sarili. Trabaho, negosyo, kabuhayan, kaya natin yan. Walang iwanan. Go lang ng go mga kaibigan. Trabaho, negosyo, kabuhayan, kaya natin yan. Sulong Pilipinas! Go, 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 kababayan! Kaya natin yan. Kaya natin yan.
Okay, well, tuloy-tuloy tayo. Ayan, no, tuloy-tuloy sa atin
Thanks
sa
for
ating
showing that
programa. No?
video.
Music video, ang ganda. Kaya natin yan. Pap, gusto ko part ng PEPS eh. Parang pangalan mo, PEPS. Pap, pararap. Oy, belated. Happy birthday, Julie, Julie Villanueva. Ayan, puro mga girls ang
Happy
ating mga birthday
birthday, Julie.
celebrants. Yung ating kaibigang si Maria Ellis ng Labayan. Kahapon, birthday niya. Oy,
Maligayang bati sa iyong karawan. Happy birthday, happy birthday. Maligayang bati sa iyong karawan. Happy birthday to you.
ayun, birthday din ang aking apo last 15th, no? At yung ating kaibigang
Birthday
si
ko rin
Marites
last
Ales
week.
on the 8th. Yeah, yes, Michelle?
Birthday mo rin, di ba,
last week.
Michelle?
Birthday mo last week, Michelle?
Last week, yeah.
Oy, happy birthday. Kailan?
October 12.
Wow,
Ka-birthday niya si Mrs. Lagdameo.
Wow,
Yes.
happy birthday. Happy birthday. Oh, okay.
Belated happy birthday din, Madam Lagdameo.
Yes, so belated happy birthday, Michelle. Talagang nakakatuwa naman. Puro mga
Belated
birthday
happy
celebrants
birthday,
pala
Michelle.
dito sa
Can I-
October.
Can I,
Mabuhay.
can I just talk about yung video na
Yeah, go, of
pinakita
course,
niyo?
of course.
Okay.
Baka masisante ako pag hindi ko promote yung ano. So yung
Sige.
trabaho negosyo kabuhayan, we call it TNK. Isa yan sa mga banner programs ng BPI. Yung secretary namin ngayon, si Secretary Ramon Lopez, he's very much a champion of MSMEs. So, before he was, he started the negosyo, promoting entrepreneurship, yung gano'n. So, very much at the local level. But ngayon, in-expand yung program na yon to reach out also to our kababayans overseas. So what we do under the TNK program, now webinars kasi nga may pandemic, di ba? But before, we would organize seminars to teach them about entrepreneurship, ano ba yung mga opportunities, paano sila mag-umpisa ng negosyo. Here in the UK, may mga iba na gustong matuto kung paano magnegosyo pagbalik nila sa Pilipinas or kung paano turuan yung mga kamag-anak nila sa Pilipinas. Yung iba naman gustong magnegosyo muna habang nandito sila. So we try to help all of them. We work with the Department of Labor also, sila Batani, to make sure na yung mga tinitrain nila later on will also develop business skills. So yun yung objective ng trabaho negosyo kabuhayan. It's
Kabuhayan.
to let development talaga emanate from the grassroots.
Galing.
It's economic empowerment from the grassroots.
Magaling. Kaya pala.
Galing.
Good. Wow. Pero gusto ko yung papararap.
Dapat
Kaya
catchy.
natin to. Okay. Alright. Ito na.
Andyan na ba yung ating
meron
ano,
tayo next.
yung,
Kanina pa. Oo,
second
kanina
guest?
Pa. We have our second guest. And, ito, entrepreneur, family of, broadcasters. Celebrities yata to.
Halo-halo na yan.
Halo-halo na to. Pag sinabing yung kanyang surname, yung pamilya na yan, kasabay na yan sa industriya ng maraming bagay na, kasama na ang broadcasting, television and radio. Okay, let's say hello, good afternoon to Chris Joseph. Chris, magandang hapon. Asa ba si Chris Joseph? Direct. Andiyan na yata. Chris Joseph. Ayun, si Chris Joseph. Nawala. Di pala, hintayin natin, nawala siya eh. Saglit lang.
Baka busy
Ayan na.
pa sa rest.
Ayan na si Chris. Chris, magandang hapon. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. How's everybody?
Wow. Ganda na attire mo. Casa. Ano yan?
Casa and Kin.
Casa and Kin. Oh.
Yeah.
Good
Opening
afternoon to you.
soon.
Opening soon ba
Opening
yan?
soon.
Oh.
Opening soon.
Hindi, sige, we'll talk about it. Teka muna. Chris, we ang tawag ito, it's an SOP, when we have somebody on the program, kasi we go around the whole of Europe, guesting ambassadors, and then we allow the mga kababayans within those respective countries to ask some questions. But we also get to find out who they are para at least malaman natin buhay-buhay ng mga Pinoy sa iba't ibang bahagi ng Europe. Chris, tell us a little something about you. How long have you been in the UK and what do you do?
I've been in the UK close to 10 years. We run with we own and operate wonderful cafe and restaurant in Kensington. I am Sanchez, the diplomat or the ambassador of Pandesal here in London. So I'm in good company because Romulo has been really promoting our culture, our hospitality to the world, to all our visitors in London, introducing the group. Next week we are opening a new brand. It's called Casa and Kin, and we will be featuring again all our Philippine cuisine, hospitality, and it's a wonderful opportunity to promote the Philippines that way.
Yung Casa and Kin, bakit hindi Romulo Cafe second outlet? Why Casa and Kin? Okay, so nasa hospitality kayo, business. Why Casa and Kin? Saan ang galing ng name na yan?
Well, we wanted to expand the brand. We were after 4 successful restaurants, opening up Romulo Cafe, a restaurant in London. We wanted to sort of introduce the UK to different types of food. Casa and Kin is a panaderia by day, street food at lunch, and then something that this market lacks, and we know that every visitor to the Philippines enjoys is a ihaw or a diba? So we will be having our traditional chicken in a sal and pork belly barbecue all the way to wagyu and lobster. It's just something that we've identified that this market needs after market research, etc. I think when approaching any market, one has to do their research first. Not just because you can, then you do. That doesn't work all the time.
Okay. Yeah, well, ang galing naman, no? Panaderia by day, street food in the tanghali, ganon? No? And towards the end of the evening, no? Oo.
This is going to be very new. We're introducing something new. It's called Create Your Own Lunch. Your lunch recreated. You'll be able to choose between 3 types of soup or broth. Kasi Filipinos, we're not very good on soup. We're very good on broth. Tinola, chicken tinola, beef bulalo, or langka utang. It's a southern recipe. And then your choice of 1 of 3 different kinds of noodles. Then you choose whether noodles, rice, or salad. Then you choose your protein like beef kare-kare, salmon, and pork. And you put it into called an invento box. You invent your own lunch.
All right. May nakikita ko seafood. Direct, pakilabas nga. Kaya mo ba ilabas to, Direct?
Invento box.
Oo nga, invento box. Parang bento box, pero invento. Oo, di ba? Invento sa mga...
This is not like bento box. This is the Filipino bento box. It's called invento box.
Alam mo, Chris, proponent ka kasi ng pandesal eh. So, nung sinasabi mo by day, panaderia, yan yung lagi mo ginagawa eh, di ba? Lahat na yata na klase ng photo about pandesal eh, ikaw ang, you always come to mind, no? Di ba?
Yeah, but Casa and Kin is going to introduce something else to the market.
Really?
Are you ready? Huh?
Something new that you can talk about or something new that we will be surprised about?
Sinamada.
Ano yan?
Sinamada.
Ano? Suman and samada? Ano? Sinamada? Ito.
Sinamada.
Ano ba to? Pandesal to eh. Pakita mga direct yung mga sinasabi ni Chris yata. Ito, ano to? Pandesal lang to. Romulo Cafe to. Yan.
Ready or not?
Oo, yeah. Ito, pandesal. Oo, okay. Wow.
Here I crumb.
Here I crumb. Oo nga. Grabe talaga.
That's a nice tagline.
Oo nga, galing, no? Ready or not. Oo. Ito, ano to? Seafood ba to? Ano to? Seafood. Ano tong nasa ka? Feed yourself. Sabing ganun. Ito ba, kasama rin to, Chris, sa pagkain, ano? Ano ba tong, what do you have here? Ano yan?
That's our, we call our,
ito, pakita mo to.
ducks.
Ano,
We
ito,
held
Chris,
the,
ano to?
ayan.
Ano to?
Yan ang chorizo de Cebu.
Barbecue.
Yeah, chorizo de Cebu.
Wow, ang galing eh.
We have, of course, the beef salpicao, the chicken inasal, and we also have a veggie. Kasi, marami, you know, the market's very big, so there's a bunch of vegans and vegetarians. So, you know, talking about trade with the Philippines, you know, the Philippines is a strong agricultural country. So all we have to do is to feed the vegetables. Diba?
Okay. Okay, Chris. Okay. Andyan si Commercial Counselor, Trade Officer Michelle Sanchez, no? Who would gladly answer your questions about anything you'd like to know, what they do, or what you could probably get also from them. Siguro help, no? In terms of, I don't know, importing something. So go ahead, please, Chris.
Yeah, you know, our biggest challenge during the lockdown was that importing things from the Philippines. You know, there are things that we have in our restaurant like LARAGAN or chocolate or calamansi juice. We noticed that from the Philippines had slowed down. I wondered if there's a forecast on when we can see an improvement in trade. You know, I know it's tough with the cost of the cost of the containers. What is the forecast? When do we see a recovery? When we can see shipments coming out of the Philippines more on a regular basis?
Yeah, so yeah, unfortunately, we did experience a slowdown in trade, both ways actually. You know, going to the UK and then also coming from the UK. Unfortunately, it's very much a global, diba? A global problem. Talagang may yung supply chain issues. Nag-umpisa yan, nag-slow down yung manufacturing, and then yung shipping also, and then naubusan ng containers because they were sort of stuck in certain ports in other countries. So, tumaas yung shipping costs, and because of that, if the items are low value, parang sinuspend muna yung pag-export, di ba? Because of the high shipping costs, especially kung magdodoble yung presyo ng produkto mo, just because, you know, more than double yung shipping cost. So, the forecasts are by mid-2022, medyo magsistabilize na because manufacturing is back, di ba? Basta gumalaw yung containers, actually yun yung isang importanting solution also. Dapat gumalaw na yung mga containers para we don't face situations of a shortage. At the same time sa Pilipinas also, naghahanap ng ibang solution. Like yung mga exporters, they've been proposing to change some of our shipping rules to allow domestic shipping companies to be able to go beyond Philippine waters, for instance. So these are the things that are being looked at. Kasi you know, this pandemic came as a big surprise. Diba? There were a lot of things that, you know, all countries were not prepared for. So parang we have to sort of pandemic-proof the economy and trade eventually. So even if there are parang short-term interventions, diba? We have to look at things to sort of last naman beyond the pandemic. So hopefully by next year, things will stabilize.
Okay. Chris, yeah. Nawala si Chris. Nawala yung audio. Sandali, Chris, babalik lang namin yung audio mo. Chris, sandali lang. Okay. Yeah, Chris, yes. Yes, we're back now. Okay na.
No, that's very encouraging. Thank you very much. That's encouraging. You know, we'll keep on doing what we're doing, and as soon as more products come in, we'll try to start promoting some of the other ones. But you know, I have a lot of guests that are interested in doing business in the Philippines, and they're asking, are there any trade delegations where they can explore opportunities in the Philippines or introduce their business to the Philippines? And, you know, I know some are interested in establishing call centers, etc. When do you think the markets will open? When they can start traveling? Because I know there's a ban on foreign nationals right now, isn't there?
Well, it's starting to relax. The travel, kasi yun yan, the travel restrictions were a big problem. We've had investors, for instance, who had to make yung final decision, like choosing between the Philippines and one other country. But before they can make that decision, they have to go to the Philippines, diba? But because between the UK and the Philippines, you're talking about something like 24, 28 days of of hotel quarantine. It's been discouraging yung short-term travel. So may mga talaga investment decisions that were put on hold because of this. But as we saw, the Philippines was taken out of the red list of the UK already, diba? So madali nang pumunta dito as long as you have the vaccination too. And then for the part of the Philippines as well, binawasan na. So before we were required to go into hotel quarantine for 10 days. Now, as long as you're in the green or amber list, and the UK is in the amber list, magiging 5 days na lang yung hotel quarantine period. So as things improve, as the situation gets more manageable, and we see cases in the Philippines going down now, mag-free up yan. When it comes to organizing trade delegations, we don't have any plans yet to organize trade delegations. But that's not to say we won't assist those who want to travel to the Philippines. Kung minsan you can be a delegation of one company, we can organize a program for you. As long as you're interested to either look for products to import from the Philippines or even look for investments. Even during the pandemic, believe it or not, we were doing what we call virtual visits to the Philippines. So we had investors, we organized a one-week program for them. Parang for 3 hours every day, they meet different people in the Philippines to be able to progress lang with mga investment decisions. So the pandemic has taught us new ways to do our work. So whether there are travel restrictions or not, we can actually bring people to the Philippines now. And Chris, let us know. I mean, we'd be more than happy to work with you to assist those who are interested to do business in the Philippines.
No, that definitely. You know, that's all encouraging, but it's really good in the Philippines and trade. That's really good news.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Chris, question lang. How are you sourcing? I remember before when officially the UK's out of the EU, I interviewed Rowena for the government's EU thing, no, for businesses. You were talking about some of your wines being sourced from France, no? Mga vegetables yata coming from, I don't know, from the mainland din yata. Pero kumusta ngayon? How's your supply? Okay lang ba? Wala kang problema na?
No, I think all supply chains are it's really being squeezed, to be honest. You know, as we're building custom king, suppliers of the equipment, pre-pandemic, to buy a fryer is a simple thing. You go to within 3 or 4 days you have it. But I understand now, because of the delay in chips from China, to put it into the fryer, to get it here, it's amazingly long, and even the raw materials for building. And as we're faced with the decision either to buy things in England, but the price is higher because the cost of labor is high. Whereas if you wait to buy it from Europe or China, the price is lower, but then it delays the opening. So we had those things. Now on the food supply, even we've heard from our suppliers on, for example, protein, beef, chicken, pork, that there are potential slowdowns. It hasn't started yet. We've got some really great suppliers who worked out solutions ahead of time, but fingers crossed as we go to the Christmas season. Our biggest challenge in the supply chain are Filipino goods. As mentioned earlier, which is very popular at Romulo. Right now you can't find wine, to the best of my knowledge, here in this country. I haven't seen Chocolate, Red Horse, Calamansi juice for almost 2 or 3 months now. And I understand why. It's exactly like Counsellor Michelle talked about, that the cost of shipping has
Wala si Chris. Okay.
relatively high cost. So I understand the challenge, and I just pray for our country so that we can start exporting again these things, which brings employment in our country.
Okay. Well, Chris, thank you very much. Where can they find Casa and Kin nga pala? Kailan ang official opening? Before you
We will
let you go?
start we'll start taking walk-ins on the 30th of October.
Okay.
Our booking lines are open. You can start booking from November 1 onwards. It could be scary to open on Halloween. You get the idea. So
Pero okay
we
yan.
take the bookings October 1. All Saints Day, you can't, all the saints will be praying for us, Anna, But we'll be in Soho, in the heart of Soho, 52 to 53 Poland Street. Pandesal will have a new home in London, in Soho, the first panaderia in Soho, in central London, and will be a lot more accessible to our very loyal our guests I'd like to take Sonny, Michelle, Peps, I'd just like to take a moment here to say thank you to all our guests at Romula. Thank you for your support during our time when we were locked down. You guys, you sent notes of encouragement. You took deliveries from us. Thank you very much. It's because of you that we're here today and we're opening another restaurant. So thank you very much. And that's all, and thank you to NHS. We have an artwork on the wall of the new Casa and Kin. It talks about friends, family, and fun. And we have the Ibong Adarna, which talks about the rebirth. But we couldn't have a rebirth in the UK without all our Filipinos working in the NHS. So thank you very much.
Wow, magaling. Chris, more power sa inyo. Romulo Cafe has been multi-awarded. I'm sure Casa and Kin will follow suit, no? So, more awards, more people na would really parang patronize yung Romulo Cafe and Casa and Kin. Ang maganda ang timing mo. May All Saints Day, papunta na ng Christmas, tama-tama ang pagbubukas nyo, di ba? Maganda
Yes.
ang timing. So, take care.
Thank you for having me.
Give our regards to Rowena, ha? Thanks a lot. Okay. Ayan. Mga kaibigan, Chris Joseph, panadero par excellence. Excellence. So, ayan. Panaderia sa araw, Peps, tanghali, mga street food. Maganda. Galing. Mabuhay,
Pati
Chris.
sa gabi, no?
Yes.
That's why they couldn't name it Romulo Cafe dahil entirely different ang menu.
Oo nga, galing.
Pagka ginawa nilang Romulo Cafe 2 yan o Romulo Cafe Soho, baka hanap bakit wala yung ganun, bakit wala iba yung ano.
Yes.
So they decided since it's an entirely different concept, might as well come up with an entirely different name, no? But under the banner of Romulo Cafe Lot.
Executive
Yung
Chef Jan
Casa
Peps is your son, di ba? Tama ba? Executive Chef? O Presidential
he's still
Chef?
there.
Paano ba posisyon yan?
Ewan ko, ang nakalagay lagi, Executive Chef.
Executive Chef, oo. Siya,
Because he's handling both, no? Romulo
He's handling
Cafe
both.
and Casa and Kin now.
pati yung mga lulutuin, yung mga pagkain, mga menu, no? Siya ang nakaka-design, nagde-design
yung pag-design lahat, no?
Oh, minsan nagte-taste test tayo. Remember, may kalalabas mo lang, sabi ni Chris uy, kalalabas ito. Testingin natin, di ba?
Tayo, naka-tsempo tayo nung... You know, Michelle, one time, we were passing through High Street, Kensington. Tayo I told Sonny, let's have coffee. Sige, pumarada, tumawid kami. Went to Romulo Cafe, no? Sabi niya, will they serve just coffee? Sabi ko, siyempre, hapon ngayon sarado sila. So, pag-coffee tayo. You know, perfect timing. They were testing the new cuisine, no? Ng Romulo Cafe. So, napasama kami ni Sunny sa first na nakatikim nung stuffed squid. Yung mga when they changed the menu, kami ni Sunny yung kasama sa tumikim.
Sama naman kami kuminsan.
Yes.
Nga. Aksidente tayo. Pero magandang Romulo Cafe. Siyempre, they try to, kung ano yung mga ingredients available, they try to make something out of it. No? It's still with the Filipino.
Tsaka ang giveaways nila doon is chocolate, no?
Chocolate. Tama.
Everyone who eats there, binibigyan nila ng chocolate. And napapansin ng tao, pagka ibang brand ang binigay nila Napapansin.
Yes,
They know it's different.
Yeah,
You know,
naalala ko nga.
malaking tulong yung malaking
Go
tulong
ahead,
yung
Michelle.
yung Romulo Cafe and Casa Inquin and other Filipino restaurants also in our work. Kasi di ba yung the more the Philippines is popular among the mainstream market, there's more interest in trade, there's more interest in the Philippines as an investment site. So it's one way also to give them an experience of the Philippines, di ba, without, especially for those who haven't traveled to the Philippines yet. So it's actually good to have this in the market.
Yung trade delegations, do we invest in that? Meaning, we bring people there, ayan, all expense paid, may pamasahe siguro, I mean, aeroplano, accommodation. Ganun ba ginagawa natin, trade delegation?
Unfortunately not. We don't, DTI doesn't really have the budget for that. The most that we do, we have this program called Very Important Buyers. So it's for mga high value buyers. And then you can be nominated to that program, and then you visit a trade fair in the Philippines like IFEX or Manila Fame. We can give you like a free hotel accommodation, for instance, for the duration of the fair. But some expenses are covered by the buyers.
Kung wala
But
kayong
we make
kamukha
sure
ng...
to take care of you.
Okay, kamukha ng Philippine Airlines, meron silang mga invitational golf, naglalaban yung mga Pilipino, iba't ibang, siguro Pilipinas o something, no? So lahat ng mga Pilipino from different parts of the world, US, ganyan, tutur namin sa Pilipinas. So may, I don't know, discount sa mga Philippine Airlines flights. Ganun ba? Ina-arrange ninyo? So hotels, yan, okay, nakakaano kayo. Mga flights, di ba, nako-coordinate nyo o hindi na?
Ang flights, hindi masyado. It's more of the hotels that's being sponsored by Kasi yung hotel is locally, di ba? So sa Pilipinas na yon. So that can easily be covered by DTI. Unfortunately, because the flights are coming from here, it's not a local expense. So hindi namin masyadong nakakover yun as incentive.
Ayan. Ano nga, 5-star hotels mo sila? Ganun?
Oo naman, syempre.
Okay naman. Oh.
These are very important buyers. I think, we will be relying on them to expand our product next year. So we have to
Good.
treat them.
May matitiran kami ni PEPS pala. Okay, teka muna. Meron pa isang kayong video dito eh. Gusto lang natin bago tayo magpaalam sa ating programa at bago nating, I'm sure we can have a part 2, no? Very interesting to PEPS dahil marami tayong pwedeng malaman, no? Pwedeng mga programa ng PTIC, no? Na ipaalam sa ating mga kababayan, no? Sa ating kababayan at sa mga Briton pa, no? Di ba parang kayo ba may parang kamukha ng sa PIDOT na VFR, visiting friends or relatives. So parang mga Pinoy, they can invest and then they can also encourage some other British people to invest, no? May ganun bang parang in a way similar?
We don't have that kind of a structured program, but we encourage all Filipinos to talk about the Philippines, di ba? To help us promote the Philippines. Pero wala kaming like an incentive program the way that the DOT has.
Ayan. Okay.
The last one that I attended na sponsored nyo, na project nyo, was the organic products, no? Fair dyan sa, I think it was in Excel?
In Excel, yeah. So that's
in
actually
Excel, no?
That's a joint project of the Department of Agriculture and us and DTI.
Yes,
so,
and DTI, no?
Ang DA is the one who organizes the participation of Philippine exporters. Ang role naman namin dito is to invite the buyers to visit the show and to meet with exporters.
Yeah, so, because we were fortunate na we were able to visit it, and at that time, yung si Secretary Verna, no, was still Undersecretary of Agriculture when she came here, no. That was before she became Secretary of Tourism. Sa agriculture pa siya, and she was the one who represented the Philippine government dito, no? And it was, I think it was very well attended, no? Pati sina Mama Sita nandun, yung mga sinasabi mong mga organic na yan, ano? Yung mga suppliers ng extra virgin coconut oil, lahat nandun, sabon. Would you believe yung sabon na ginagamit namin ngayon dito? My wife just told me she bought
doon
sa fair na yun.
Sa fair na yun, oh. Oh, galing.
So it's coconut based, no? Yung yung sabon na ginagamit namin ngayon na sabi ko, nandiyan pa sa'yo. Uy, marami akong binili dahil mabait naman yung nagtitinda.
Maganda to, awareness
might
campaign natin ngayon. Awareness campaign natin na marami palang pwede nating gawin. No? Ako nga, nakaisip na, kaya siguro mag-coffee tayo with Michelle. No? Oh, Michelle, meron kami video pakikita rito. Ano to? Sabi mo yung kanina, yung music video, parang going to the grassroots. Ito naman abroad to. Parang nakikita ko, Golden Gate yata to eh. Sige, ano ba to? Tungkol saan to?
I think what you're going to show probably is the Make It Happen in the Philippines video. So ito naman is a campaign directed towards foreign investors. So kaya iba naman yung
Iba
message.
naman ngayon kasi Golden Gate kagad ang bukas eh.
Yeah, what's interesting is itong project na to was supported by the UK government. So yung Department for International Trade had a program, an investment promotion program, and they actually assisted the Philippines in developing the concept for this and then doing the initial studies for this. So ito ngayon kung sa DOT merong it's more fun in the Philippines, di ba? Sa when it comes to investment, it's the Make It Happen in the Philippines. Kasi yung
Make
mga
it happen
Pinoy,
in the Philippines.
yung mga Pinoy maparaan, di ba? So we
Yes.
can actually make it happen in the Philippines. So that's the
Yes.
that's the-
Okay, let's make it happen.
short info.
Direct. Roll video.
Amidst the vastness and diversity of the world, somewhere in the Asia Pacific, you will find the pearl of the Orient. Right here, the Philippines. Beyond its beaches and rich culture, here is Southeast Asia's second largest and youngest population with a literacy rate among the highest in the world. Here, the mobile penetration is incomparable. Here, internet users spend the most time online, the longest across the globe. Here is the social media capital of the world. Here, people are digitally adept and early adopters of new innovations. Here, businesses have accelerated their digital transformation and emerged into e-industries. This is all supported by world-class digital infrastructure, the Philippines' widest fiber optic network, an expansive submarine cable network, and points of presence. And the largest data center network in the country. Here, across its more than 7,000 islands, making it the ideal digital market destination. Discover it here, only here, the Philippines.
Alright. Okay. Oh, wala yung bumper natin. Okay. Alright. Ang galang, alam mo, Michelle, merong bansa, hindi ko alam kung Hungary or Romania or something, they're also active promoting their country as a business place that they have very yung mga intelligent, literate workforce, yung mga ganyan, mga internet, no? So when was this done? Itong video na to, kailan ginawa yan?
Those were produced actually during the pandemic. Nag-umpisa yan last year and then this year as well. So may mga industry-specific videos na rin.
Maganda.
But the launch of that program was actually last year.
Ayan. kung hindi ka namin na-guest, hindi ako aware. Dahil si Peps nga, dahil nakasama na namin yung sa Polo, nakasama na namin yung Pidot. Ikaw naman, no? So let's get to know yung which is good. No? Marami kami natutunan. Marami na encourage na yung nagkaroon ng germ of an idea ba? Teka muna, baka pwedeng, with these ideas of the tuna coming from the Philippines, Clark shoes coming from the Philippines, ano pa ba, bicycle parts coming from the Philippines, or even bicycles, no? So, marami pa. Bukod pa rin sa bisikleta, sa tuna, sa pineapple, sa sapatos, ano pa galing sa Pilipinas?
So,
banana chips.
Yung mga,
banana chips.
Yeah, banana chips. Meron tayong mga traditional exports, diba yan? Mga dried mango, banana chips, the things that you can find in mga Filipino Asian stores. But aside from that, yung mga high-value exports talaga natin are more in the electronic sector. Ngayon, we're part of the supply chain of the aerospace sector of the UK, the automotive sector of the UK.
Paano?
So may mga parts na ginagawa sa Pilipinas na pumupunta dito.
Gawa na naman ng mga Taiwanese, ganyan?
No,
Mga Germans?
actually, ito kung minsan, it's UK companies. So may mga
UK companies who base themselves in the Philippines sa mga processing zones.
Some have relocated, so they've moved out of China, lumipat sa Pilipinas to manufacture these products. In fact, during the pandemic, we were able to assist some companies who set up their manufacturing operations in the Philippines for the first time. So, kahit may pandemic, there's actually business that's going in. We saw very good investors coming in.
Ano yan, mga tax holidays of 10 years? 5 years? Zero tax on importation of mga equipments, ganun, no? Maraming mga ganun incentives.
There's some incentives. Tapos meron tayong, I don't know if you've heard of the CREATE law. Yun yung bagong incentive, parang tax regime and tax and incentive regime ng Pilipinas. So that one, parang sort of organize the incentive programs in the Philippines for investors. So it's very competitive to other countries as well. But ang biggest selling point lagi ng Pilipinas are our people. Kasi nga madaling i-train, they're very highly skilled, diba? Whether it's the factory workers up to the managers, people find it easy to relate to Filipinos. So a lot of the investors who came in and are expanding in the Philippines, they cite that as one of the biggest advantages of the Philippines. So kahit kung minsan mas mahal ng konti yung labor cost doon, di ba? If you look at the productivity, the level of productivity, the Philippines would have an advantage.
Ayan, okay.
I remember a long time ago, we were I think one of the biggest exporters ng semiconductors, di ba?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Ang daming nagtayo na American companies na nagtayo sa Philippines ng manufacturing plants, so
yeah, we still have those, pero ang maganda ngayon, umaangat na yung the level of skills that we're offering, the level of technology. So even in the IT BPO industry, di ba, parang we're still the number one in call centers. But apart from that, we are providing higher value services now. May mga data analytics na tayo, may mga parang pumapasok na tayo sa robotics, di ba? So it's really, you really can see how foreign investment has developed the industries in the Philippines and also benefited our people. Kasi the skill levels that we're promoting now or that we're offering now are much higher than they were before.
Yung mga export processing zones under the DTI, Ben?
Yes, so the agency is called the Philippine Economic Zone Authority. So that's an attached agency of DTI.
DTI, kamukha ng Board of Investments, pasok sa DTI yan, mga ganyan. Okay. So kayo ang pinaka tapos pinaka umbrella or whatever, tapos pababa na yan sa no? Okay, well, marami tayong natutunan rito, Peps, ngayon, kay Michelle, no? Is there anything that we should have asked you that baka may gusto kang di ba?
May gusto kang ipaabot, no?
Ipaabot sa ating mga babae na hindi namin naitanong, no? Nasa yung pagkakataon, Michelle, sa ating pagpapaalam. Go ahead, please.
Okay, so si Peps kasi mention nga kanina, I was saying thank you nga for giving this opportunity to us. Because I think marami sa mga kababayan natin sa UK hindi masyadong familiar with the work that we do. So this was a good opportunity for us to tell you what we do. I think I also want to let you know that we're very much a very accessible office. So yung mga Pinoy na gustong magnegosyo, di ba? Kung yung isipin na maliit lang kayo or mag-uumpisa lang kayo, you can go to us. We can devote time to sit down with you and then tell you, for example, sino yung pwedeng lapitan. Malaking organization ng DTI, but we have negosyo centers who are looking after the small and medium enterprises. So we can help you. So sabihin nyo lang sa amin kung may mga kailangan kayo. We are encouraging Filipinos to get into entrepreneurship. We are encouraging Filipinos to create livelihood for other Filipinos. So no one is too small for us when it comes to assisting you.
Good. Wow, maganda
Good to
yan.
know.
To create livelihood na pwede nating i-import dito. Tama, di ba? Kasi kung gagawin lang nila, paano marketing no, di ba? Yung production, okay na eh. Pero if you don't move, maski if you can make the best car, kung hindi nabebenta yon, you cannot make the next production. Kailangan mabenta yon. So, we are encouraging our kapwa Filipinos to invest no matter how small. Hindi natin i-smallin yan. Di ba? Pag nagsama-sama naman yan, malaki na yan. To provide jobs, makakreate ng jobs sa mga Pilipino. Pero yung gagawin ng Pilipino, ay pabalik dito. Tama ba yan, Michelle?
Well, eventually pwede. But usually kasi kung nag-uumpisa, magandang tingnan muna yung local market. So, DTI has programs, for example, yung Go Local. So, parang nagtatayo ng pwesto in the big malls, for instance. May mga Go Local na shop. And then we feature the products of micro and small enterprises. So, that's your first entry. Kasi ang export business is more complicated, di ba? There are greater risks involved and you need more capital to be able to do that. But it's good to start with the local market, get a hang of it, develop your product, and DTI will have interventions also to help you with product development until you are ready for export. So may parang in a way, mag-graduate ka to be able to get to the export stage.
Wala namang minimum na capitalization na kailangan dyan?
Wala eh. Kasi yung sa we have this Barangay Micro Enterprise Act. So we really encourage kahit yung mga maliliit with very small capital to get started in business. And yun talagang may tax incentive. Parang you get income tax holiday in a way, di ba? If you're among the qualified Barangay Micro and Business Enterprises.
Ayan. Okay. Well, maraming salamat. We want to thank you, Michelle, no, for being a part of today's show, no, and thank you very much for imparting and letting our kababayans know of the work that you guys are doing diyan sa PTIC, no. So
it was a pleasure to join you. Can I just kasi magagalit yung
please.
Magagalit yung team ko pag hindi ko sila hinay. So
of course.
The PTIC London is not just me. So I'm probably the one you're meeting now. But we're a very high-powered team composed of two other people, si Menchi Regala and Chris Nobleza. So they're locally hired. So they're from the UK, pero mga Pinoy, and they've been really working very hard to make sure that we're able to deliver the work that we're supposed to do.
Okay. But you are the face of PTIC, siyempre. Dahil ikaw ang, di ba? And so, local hires pala sila Chris and sino isa? Chris Nobleza and? Menchi Regala. Oy, mabuhay kayo dyan, ha? Mabuhay, ha? Mabuhay. Ang
Si Chris yung sumagot sa atin, Sunny.
Si Chris.
Remember? Yung
Nobleza, yes.
unang sumagot sa atin na when we requested for the interview, si Chris yung nakiki-coordinate sa atin nung wala pa si Michelle. No? But when she returned, si Michelle na ang nagano sa atin.
Nasa opisina ninyo? Iniisip ng tao.
Nasa pa rin sa Cumberland.
Attached kayo. Pero iba kayo, di ba? Nasa opisina nyo?
Nasa Kensington High Street kami. So yung office ni Mr. Sales before, that's still the same office we're occupying.
Ayun. Okay, well, mabuhay.
Yung kasi ang malapit sa Philippine Embassy nung araw.
Yes,
Ayun.
that's right.
Kaya nandun. And for a while, the Philippine Embassy was there. Sa lugar na yun.
The consulate was
yung consulate. Nandun dati ang consulate.
Okay.
But we're talking of 60s pa yata yun.
Ang inabutan ko yung 1990s na when Perry Salas was the commercial counselor. So nasa Cumberland.
Si Telma, was she still there? The late Telma?
Yes, I met Thelma during that time and Jet as well. I think.
Pero we're happy,
Alam mo
We're
yung
gonna be-
nurses, Sunny?
Yes.
Nung unang-unang kukuha ng nurses sa Philippines,
Mhm.
PTIC ang una nilang tinawagan, karamihan. So it was sina Thelma noon, no? Ang nagre-refer
Thelma,
sa
ano
mga
surname?
iba't iba.
Thelma, ano surname ni Thelma? Would you know the surname?
Thelma Steele.
Still, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, she's married to a British. Yeah.
Thelma was the previous commercial counselor?
Excuse me lang, ha? At dumating na yung aking caterer sa tingin ko.
Okay. Sure,
So
sure.
I'll be
Sige.
out. Kukunin ko
Okay.
lang, bubuksan ko lang
Hindi
yung
pala.
pinto, ha?
Sige. Sige. Okay. Sige.
Kayo
sige.
muna ang dalawa. Okay?
Okay. Wala tayong dalawa shot, no? Pero okay lang. Sige. Sige, hindi bale. Okay. Ayan. Well, it's nice talaga, Michelle, na ganito, no? Nagkaroon tayo ng, ano pangalan to? We having you on the program, kasama tayo dito sa ating programa. It's an eye-opener din, no? Na meron palang ganito, no? Although alam na natin, but we, Peps and I, have an idea what it is. Pero yung ating mga kababayan, the general public, mga kababayan natin na Pilipino, ay hindi alam ito, no? At maganda to. At it could be a way of encouraging yun nga, yung to help our kababayans in the Philippines by way of, yung sinasabi mo mga ano pangalan nun? Go negosyo?
Local.
Go local. Oo, yan. Mga ganyan.
Go
mga-
Negosyo is an entrepreneurship program.
Ayun, go local. Ayan, maganda yan. At pwede nating paalam sa ating mga kababayan. Ayan.
Ang isang
Ayan,
magandang nakita namin during the pandemic then, parang maraming mga Pinoy here in the UK who went into business. We did, di ba yung sinasabi kong trabaho, negosyo, kabuhayan na webinar. We did one last year to teach people, parang to share information on how to set up a home business. So, e-commerce, di ba? Parang it's business that you can do from the home. And then, after that, I think there were a few Filipinos who actually contacted our office because they set up their businesses na at home. So, kahit nandito kayo, pwede rin namin kayong tulungan. We can give you advice, and then we can also point you to where you can get further assistance from the UK government even for small businesses. So it's a good thing. I mean, that's one of the in a way naging magandang resulta na kahit na yung medyo mahirap during the pandemic, at least there were some bright spots na gano'n.
Okay, yes. Napaka laking bagay niya, no? At least teaching them to the right direction, no? Kunyari UK man, no? So yan, well researched mo na, no? And we're glad kasi Michelle, meron ka pang additional 2 years like you said, di ba? You've been extended from 6 years. Sabi mo, not less than 2, not more than 6. But in this time, it's an exception, di ba? Napahaba. Oops, ano ba yan? Oo. Teka muna. Okay. Ayan, alright.
Whitney Houston
Okay.
fan ko.
May music dun. Baka yun ang kinuwang regalo ni PEPS siguro. Parang, baka dahil birthday ni Mrs. Baka meron siyang regalo na ayaw niyang paalam. Kailangan ma-intercept niya yung di ba, yung messenger o kung sino man ng delivery, maunahan niya yun. Kailangan andyan na. Ito, tingnan, bago ka magpaalam, sige, balik lang natin si PEPS at andyan na kaya si PEPS, tingnan natin kung nandiyan na. Biglang merong Whitney Houston siyang, PEPS, may Whitney Houston kakagad, ay yung audio niya, Pau, direct. Hindi mo napindot yung Hindi, direct. Ito, yan. Ayan. Hello, PEPS?
Yes,
Wala.
yeah.
Yes,
Pag-press ko ng on ng audio ko, si Whitney Houston pa lang.
Whitney Houston. Ayan, okay. O yan, well, magandang bagay ito. Napapag-usapan lang namin ni Michelle tong ating ito sa DTI nga, sa PTIC. Na malaking bagay ito at least naipaalam din natin ng general Filipino public dito sa United Kingdom at sa buong Europa. Teka muna, final question lang bago lang bago ka namin pakawalan, no? Ikaw ba kamukha ng DOT na may nasa grupo ng Frankfurt na hawak yung nasa Eastern Europe, yung si Jerry nasa North and South. what do you call this, Europe, Southern Europe plus UK. Meron ba kayong iba pang mga commercial counselors
Hawak.
dito or trade officers sa buong Europa?
So yung post namin, yung London, covers the UK and Ireland. We have other offices in Europe. I think we have a total of 7. So meron tayo sa Geneva, meron sa Brussels, and then Berlin, Paris, Moscow, and Stockholm. So yun lahat yung yun yung tawag namin doon, Team Europe.
Okay. So 7 pala kayo. Wala lang sa Spain,
Marami
no?
sila.
Wala sa Italy. No.
Yung Spain and Italy are covered by the post in Paris.
Okay. Kasi sabi mo,
Depende
Belgium,
kasi kung sino pinakamalapit.
Belgium, sabi mo, ano ba yan?
Geneva.
Geneva, okay. Tapos, ano ba yung tatlo? Germany, of course.
Berlin, yeah.
Berlin,
And then
sa Berlin.
Moscow and Stockholm.
Moscow and Stockholm, Sweden. Yun na center, no?
Yeah.
Si ano, kaibigan natin doon? Sino sa Sweden?
Mary Headford.
Sino?
Mary Headford.
Mary.
She used to be the Mary Headford. She was the trade assistant before.
Okay. Headford. Basta kilala ko, namit ko na yan eh. Namit ko na siya eh. Because sa Brussels, namit ko rin yata yung, hindi ko alam kung agriculture attaché or trade attaché dati sa Belgium na napunta ng napunta na, Brussels na napunta ng Stockholm. But anyway, well, Michelle, thank you very much. Maraming salamat. I hope this is not the first and the last time that we're going to be having you on the program to tell our kababayans, not only in the UK but in the whole of Europe, about what you guys are doing at at PTIC, no? Philippine Trade and Industry Investment. Philippine Trade and Investment Center.
Center.
Tama.
PTIC.
Ayan, Center. Maraming salamat,
Under
Michelle.
the Department of Trade and Industries.
Yes.
Right.
Philippine
Thank
Trade
you for
and
this
Investment Center.
opportunity. Really appreciate it.
Maraming salamat. Mabuhay. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, no, si Michelle Sanchez, Commercial Counselor and Trade Officer ng Philippine Trade and Investment Center dito po sa United Kingdom. Thank you. Well, ayan, Peps. Nako, ang ganda na naman na...
Thank you very much, Michelle.
Maraming salamat, Michelle, ha?
Sa uulitin.
Yes, sa uulitin. At ang dami, nakita mo yung video nila, no? One was for the Philippines, kaya natin to. And the second was, ano pangalan to? Yung, para naman sa international.
Make it happen.
Make it happen.
Make it
Tama,
happen.
Make it happen. Okay,
We
may
can
mga
make it
pagbati tayo
happen.
dito, no? Mabilis lang, patapos na lang.
May
siguro
mga
to.
bumati pa, no? Ano
Oo.
yun?
Si
si
Edgar
Adel
Duay,
Dueñas.
una muna.
Edgar
Okay.
Duay, no?
Si Edgar Duay, yan, hindi pa siya nalalagay. Yan. Edgar Duay,
Yung si Chris Noble, tapos na natin eh. No?
Chris Noble.
So,
Okay.
Edgar Duay, hindi pa. No?
Ayan.
Magandang hapon po
Magandang
sa
hapon.
inyong
Hapon
lahat.
sa inyong
Magandang
lahat. Ayan.
hapon din sa iyo, Edgar.
Ayan, para kay Julie.
Happy birthday sa Miss... Oy, Peps, si Julie Villanueva, si Manang Adel.
Manangdel,
From,
Okay.
sa ngayon ay nasa Toronto. No?
Toronto, Canada. Nasa east side. Okay, Apollo Cabero.
Good afternoon, guys. Apple Cubero. Batangas ito, Batanggenyo ito, no?
Yes.
Kapatid niya yung dating presidente ng Batangas Association UK. Maria Ferry, good afternoon everyone. Good
Maria
afternoon
Ferry,
din sa iyo,
mabuhay.
no?
Nasa California ba si Maria o nasa Florida? Nakalimutan ko na. California yata. Sonia Padilla Williams, Peps.
Good afternoon to everyone.
Yes, oo.
Sonia Padilla Williams.
Last but not the least, si Ed Abdallah.
Ito yung kaibigan natin sa Kuwait. May tanong siya. Good evening po. Ask ko lang po kung pinahihintulutan na po bang mag-travel yung mga taga-Pinas going Europe. Thank you po. Watching from Kuwait po.
Pwede na. Inalaw na.
Hindi naman pinagbawal na pwedeng magbiyahe kung meron kayong visa, no? Ang naging problema lang for a while, a long time sarado yung embassy, so wala kang kukuhaan ng visa, no? But kung ikaw ay residente dito, pwede kang magbiyahe dito, no? Or if you have a visa to come here. Ang dati nga lang, because we were in the red list, merong merong quarantine, no? Around Europe, kanya-kanya po na rules ang mga different countries, no? So, depende po kung saan pupunta. Pero pwede naman, no?
Ayun.
But you have to check kung ano yung rules nung country na pupuntahan mo, no? From watching from Kuwait, no? At
Natuwa
andyan
ako
din
sa
si
ating
Lita Diola, Batanggenya rin to, na nanonood din sa atin, ano? So, Lita, pagaling ka. Alam ko nagkasakit ito, no?
Oh, get well soon, ha? Get well soon. Pagaling.
Si Marlon Balba, no?
Oo.
Nanonood din sa atin. Dahil nakaano tayo sa Batangas Association UK na page, naka-live stream din tayo doon.
Mabuhay,
Kaya,
mga taga Batangas
May mga
Association.
Batanggenyo tayong nandito ngayon, ano? So, maraming salamat.
Cum laude, PEPS yung guest natin, ha? Cum laude sa University of the Philippines, ha? Bigat yan.
Yeah.
Nag-MBA pa yan. So, napakahusay.
Alam mo, Sunny, bilib ako dito sa ano? Dito
sino?
sa aking caterer.
O, bakit? O nga. Yan ba in-order mo?
Sabi niya, alas 5.
Oo.
Aba, eksaktong alas 5,
Alas
nagri-ring
5.
yung bell.
Okay.
Yung asawa si Edpo Villanueva, no? Edpong Handaan. Salamat,
Ayan,
Edpo, no?
Edpo, mabuhay, ha? Ayan.
So, bumati si Lita.
Oh, Lita
Diola, no? Diola. Good afternoon sa inyo. Good afternoon din sa iyo, Lita, no?
Mabuhay.
Kumusta kay William?
Mabuhay, ha? Ayan. Well, ano ang special thing for special dinner ba kayo niya sa bahay na ni Julie?
Hindi nga alam nung
in-order mo ba
aking
yan?
asawa dahil lumabas siya kasama yung mga kaibigan niya for lunch, no? And then, but they're coming back. At doon
surprise
kami
mo yan.
pupunta sa bahay ng anak ko. No?
Doon na yun sa celebrate your
Surprise
birthday.
para sa kanya. Para wala nang magluto, nagpa-cater na lang ako.
Nagpa-cater. Tama.
So, pero dineliver lang yung pagkain. Wala nang service, wala nang lahat. Kami nang bahalang maghain.
Yeah.
So,
pagkain lang. Yun lang, dadalhin lang. Tapos bahala kayo.
Pagkain lang, ano?
Pagkain lang.
Nagsaing na ako. Bago tayo nag-show, nagsasaing ako kanina.
Okay na. Kakainin na lang.
Okay
nakahanda
na.
Parang picnic na lang.
Pinagbilin nga niya, wag ko daw ipagsabi na 70 years old siya ngayon. No? Kaya hindi ko binabanggit na 70 na siya.
Hindi naman siya mukhang 17 years old. The young looking, eternally young looking, no?
Wag ko daw banggitin. Hindi ko binanggit kanina.
Tama,
Ngayon ko binanggit.
Happy birthday, Julie, ha? Marami nagse-celebrate ang birthday ng mga loved ones natin. Yung apo ko, di ba? Si Kyle.
Binati ko nga rin si Neng, no? Birthday kahapon. Kahapon yata si Neng.
Kahapon ang kanyang officially birthday niya
no?
was yesterday. So, mabuhay. Neng, may you have long live, no? Long life, no? And good
Ang
health.
dami palang October, ha? Si Tita Leus, yung dati ring Tita Leus McCarthy. October din yan, no? Si Ronnie Del Barrio, kaibigan natin Ronnie Del Barrio, October din yan. Yung isa pang dancer ng Lahing Kay Manggi, si Marlon. Bukas, birthday din niya. And then bukas, birthday din ng aking daughter-in-law, si Rebecca Villanueva.
Okay. Si Maring Marictes Allen. Birthday niya.
Nag-birthday din.
Puro mga birthday celebrant, di ba?
Si Philip De Vera, alam mo, nakakwentuhan ko si Philip.
Philip De Vera.
Philip De Vera, nakakwentuhan ko the other day, kailan ba yun? Last Friday, no? O Thursday, napadaan ako dun sa kumaway siya. Di pumasok ako sa loob ng shop niya. Enjoy daw siya dun sa kanyang birthday celebration sa Prague, no? Ang bait-bait daw ni Ambassador, ang bait-bait daw ni Conjen, no? And they were really well taken care of. No? Ni Conjen daw.
Good.
Pinasyal pa daw sila, no?
Isinamahan daw sila sa simbahan, maski Muslim si Ambassador Ambra Reynal.
Si Ambassador.
Pati yung wife. Bumili pa ng rosaryo para iparegalo sa mga friends, no? So bilang mo, Muslim, okay, game talaga.
Pero nakakatuwa naman at nag-ano sila, no? Magaling yung
That's good. Maganda, naistima sila na mahusay, no? Mabuti. And we're so thankful to Ambassador Hainal, no? Jainal. And si Indira, no? Si Conjen, doon sa kanilang ginawa. At, next week, next week sila na.
Oo.
Sila uli.
Asan tayo next week?
Doon, sa Prague.
Sa Prague ba tayo uli?
Oo, next week. Doon tayo kay Ambassador Hinal. Di ba?
Oo,
doon
magbabalik tayo, no?
Magbabalik tayo. So,
Abangan
ayan.
po ninyo yan. Embassy natin, kaibigan mo.
Sa Czech Republic.
Czech Republic, Part 2.
Oo.
No?
Part 2.
So,
part 2 natin. Oh, good.
Oo.
Okay. Okay.
Abangan po ninyo yan, no? At
sige, Peps,
tayo
paano tayo? Sige.
Sige, no?
Mm.
At tama-tama, dumating na rin yung aking asawa, no?
Ay, wala ka sinasabi.
Ah,
Oo, okay yan. Tama-tama. Wala
oo.
kang sinasabi. Wala siya naririnig. Oo.
Oo.
Happy birthday! Wala. Hindi naman.
Okay.
Hindi maano yan. Okay.
Wala, kadadating lang no?
Darating lang.
O sige,
Peps.
paalam na tayo.
Paalam
Huwag
na.
po ninyong kalimutan, next week, alas 3 ng hapon uli. Dito po sa Filipino TV Europe. Embassy natin, kaibigan mo. Sa Czech Republic, Part 2. No?
Mm.
At siyempre, salamat yung sa ating mga naging bisita ngayon. Chris Joseph of Romulo Cafe, London, and Casa and Kin. At si June Changson, no? From Manchester. Active yan, Tabawenyos UK at saka sa Freemasons, ano? At yung kanyang negosyo sa insurance. So, kakatuwa naman at they came here. They joined. They didn't come here. They joined us. No?
Joined us.
At saka siyempre yung ating bisitang pandangal ngayong araw na ito, yung ating commercial counselor na si Michelle Fatima Santos Sanchez. At siyempre, Pao, thank you.
Ayan, sa ating direktor. Okay, well, maraming salamat, Peps. Ayan, thank you very much. Siyempre, sa ngalan po ni Peps, sa ngalan po ng ating very special guest na commercial counselor, trade officer po, no, ng PTIC dito po, si Michelle. Mahaba yung Michelle Fatima Santos Sanchez, no? And we're gonna have her again next week, no? And syempre sa ating director, no, si Paula Perez, no? Sonny LARAGAN here saying thank you very much sa inyong pagsubaybay sa amin ni Peps dito po sa embassy natin, kaibigan mo. At maraming salamat. Baka makalimutan ko, Peps, ito yung World Remit ito. Pinakamabilis na napadala, nasa sala sofa lang kayo, no? Hindi na nyo kailangan pumunta pa sa inyong papadalan o yung padalan ho ninyo. Doon lang sa comfort ng inyong sofa, pwede na ho kayong magpadala, no? Mabilis at safe, at pwede pang inumin ni Peps ang inuman nito, no? Yung kanilang flask, and ano ba tawag nito? Ayan, pwede yung tubig. Kasi may dalawa ho siya, ako isa lang, hindi ko alam kung bakit, unfair. So, but thank you very much, World Remits. So, thank you very much. Till next week, embassy natin, kaibigan mo, papunta naman kami sa Czech Republic. So, till then, take care, God bless, and bye.
Sa World Remit, naiintindihan namin ang iyong paglalakbay. Na minsan, kailangan lumayo upang makamit ang tagumpay. With ways to save more, when you send more, World Remit is here for you, so you can be there for them.